Hello and welcome. This is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. This channel evaluates all aspects of true crime. As you are aware, videos and live streams in this genre often discuss elements of crime that may be disturbing to some viewers. If necessary, take the precautions needed to avoid these feelings. Factual information related to cases is the key to fostering rational true crime discussions. Fortunately, you will find that here. Please hit the like button only once, share the video, and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you very much for watching. Still don't have the dogs working. All right. Hey, look at that, 62 months by Zozo. Just recently, I think the only other ones I've seen higher are, I don't know if it was Linda Howell and Lanky Tor, but I know somebody did, but two of them had 63 months. That's pretty crazy. What is that? 5 years and 2 months. Yeah, I've been kind of working on this animation. I'm trying to, I mean, look at this guy with the balaclava. He's kind of like a creepy looking dude, though. I haven't made him colored yet, but he also doesn't have like a shirt, so I don't know, I can't really use that, but I think I figured out a way to put the balaclava on somebody else. I could just make it look like he's wearing a body suit or something. So that, because I can actually take the balaclava off of the character. But anyways, I was working on something. I got some cool lighting. I'm gonna try to do my version of what I think happened with still frames. You know, it's too, you know, making an animation with the you know, with the all the you know, attacking and fighting people. I mean, who knows what happened in those moments? We just have to kind of guess at stuff like that. You know, like the way this works here, I could do something like, hold on. If I open this up, I could probably do, like, select the hair. I'll just show you what it would kind of look like. Yeah, never mind. Can't really do that. But you can apply black textures to like everything, and then his eyes would be normal. But it didn't come with a texture map, so I just used the balaclava and I put it onto an actually existing model that I used. All right, so one of the documents that was just released today was this order on defendant's motion in limine. Hold on. That's too loud, my music. Okay, I guess it's longer than that. But it was one of the documents, and this is what it came up with for the ChatGPT for the summarization.
Background. Kohberger's defense moved to limit or exclude state expert witnesses, arguing the state's disclosures were...
Here, let me just go up here. It's pretty interesting.
Here is a detailed summary of the April 24, 2025 court order on defendant's motion in limine, vague and undisclosed expert testimony in the case of State of Idaho v. Brian Kohberger. Summary. Order on defendant's motion in limina re, vague and undisclosed expert testimony. Case, State of Idaho v. Brian C. Kohberger Court, 4th Judicial District, Ada County Judge, District. Judge date filed, April 24th, 2025. Case number, CR January 24th, 31665. Background. Kohberger's defense moved to limit or exclude state expert witnesses, arguing the state's disclosures were vague or incomplete and did not meet Idaho discovery rules for expert testimony. The state responded that all proper discovery had been provided and that any remaining issues were for cross-examination at trial, not exclusion. Key expert witnesses challenged in court's findings. 1. Jenny Ayers, ISP forensic scientist. Testifies about crime scene processing, collection of evidence, DNA, and lab work at Kohberger's apartment and office. Defense disclosures lacked explicit opinions, only procedures. Court, she is a hybrid fact, expert witness. Explains process and her own actions. No need for separate opinions. Her testimony is allowed.
Man, why would they even try to not allow that? It's just so stupid.
2. FBI Special Agent Nicholas Balance, CAST, cell phone data analysis. Analyzed ATANT cell records, location data, and created CAST reports. Defense complained that methodology and some data were not clear or disclosed. Court, all necessary opinions, facts, and data were provided. Any disagreements are for cross-examination, not exclusion. 3. Heather and Jared Barnhart.
I mean, it's just the defense team just gets routed every 5 seconds.
Celebrite digital analysts. Analyzed Kohberger's phone and PC for data gaps. Opined they were abnormal and possibly due to anti-forensic efforts. Defense claimed disclosures were unclear, raised habit evidence issue. Court, reports are sufficient, opinions clear, and all data provided. Testimony is allowed.
See, that's what the court's saying. It's reports are sufficient, opinions clear, and all data provided. I mean, my God, you guys. But hey, guys, we kind of struggled in here last couple days, so if you guys have the ability to help support the channel during this live stream, allows us at the end of the month to do a lot of great things, and I would appreciate if you guys could help support the channel. If you do the super chats, the coffees, buy channel memberships. We didn't have any purchase last night for anybody, so it was kind of a weird last 2 days. Don't know what happened, but if you guys could, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Buckwheat eyebrows. I can put any. So the image the texture map that I'm using, I'm gonna adjust the eyebrows, make them look more like, or I might even take his and put him on the actual map that's on the face.
Four. Michael Douglas, FBI forensic accountant. Reviewed and will testify to Kohberger's financial transactions and changes in spending patterns. Defense argued lack of explicit opinion disclosures. Court, testimony is factual and disclosure sufficient. 5. Shane Cox, Amazon.com litigation manager, will testify about Amazon account data for Kohberger order, click, and sign-in history. Defense, wanted opinions excluded, question methodology. Court, testimony is factual, disclosures adequate.
Yeah, see, I mean, right, even right there, the whole click data, when that idiot person came in for the defense team going, well, we don't really know it, how he would have got there. Maybe he got some, it's just garbage, right?
Six. Det. Darren Gilbertson, ISP, timed run-through of crime scene. Ran timing experiments at 1122 King Road to see if one person could commit the murders in 2 to 4 minutes. Defense challenged.
This is where I was like, whoa. So, Darren Gilbertson, ISP, timed run-through of crime scene, ran timing experiments at 1122 King Road to see if one person could commit the murders in 2 to 4 minutes. See, I've told you guys, I think it's less than 6 even. We've done those 7-minute things, and it's too long. It's still too long. And so they did tests from 2 to 4 minutes. I think that's a huge piece of information there, because I think they know now, they believe that he left the house at 17 after or so, right around that time, and then he drove away at 3 minutes and 40 seconds later because he had to do some stuff at it. I want to go read it in the document, though, okay? This is just the summary, and then we'll go back and take a look at it.
Expertise, completeness of disclosure, and relevance. Court, disclosure is sufficient. Any issues are for cross-exam. Report describes methods and findings. 7. ISP forensic lab scientists testified about evidence collection, testing DNA, etc. Defense sought to limit them to lab report content only, objected to catch-all language in disclosures. Court, as long as testimony is within disclosures and reports, it's allowed. Objections can be raised if testimony goes beyond disclosed scope. 8. Dr. Gary Dawson, Toxicology, Intoxication of Victim. Rebuttal witness. Opines on victim Madison Mogan's alcohol impairment at time of death and limited ability to resist attack. Defense claimed it's not proper rebuttal, not relevant. Court, testimony rebuts defense theory of multiple assailants and is allowed, subject to relevance depending on how defense experts testify. 9. Maury, Tanzola, Uhrig digital forensics detectives testify about digital extractions, chain of custody and findings or lack thereof, linking Kohberger to devices data from the case. Defense wanted their testimony limited strictly to disclosed findings. Court, their testimony is factual, not opinion, and scope is set by disclosures. 10.
So what does it say? Testify about digital extraction, chain of custody and findings, linking Kohberger's devices data from the case. I mean, there's a lot of little sort of innuendo stuff in here.
Rob Healy, FBI, vehicle surveillance. Rebuttal witness will testify based on multiple videos that suspect vehicle did not have a front license plate. Defense wanted testimony.
Multiple videos. You see that? So I told you guys in the video I made the other day that didn't really get viewed very much was the but there was the first sighting was at 3:28 driving by the A&W. That's what it said in the probable cause, that it was missing its front license plate. And then later at 4:01 you see it missing its front license plate. So an expert, that's probably the clearest one. Now there will be an expert that their opinion is that the license plate is missing in other videos, and it's factual. That's pretty amazing.
Limited to clips explicitly identified in disclosure. Court, disclosures reference full summary and specific clips. Testimony not limited to only named clips. Order. Result.
Only named clips. I guess there might be other clips that we're not aware of.
Defense motion to limit or exclude expert testimony is denied. All challenged state expert testimony is currently allowed, within the bounds of the disclosures and reports provided. If during trial the defense believes an expert strays beyond their disclosed opinions or the scope of discovery, objections can be made at that time, and the court will address them.
Thanks, Jim Lawn.
1.21 gigawatts! What the hell is a gigawatt?
I don't know. All right, so let's get I want to look at the actual document on that one. Let's see. Let me just type in the word minutes. Wait, what was it? This one? Let me make sure I got the right document. Vague. Is that the name of this one? I think it's a different one than that I had. There's a whole bunch of three big documents that have different information in them. Defense complained at hearing an agent balance analyzed handoff data for 7 minutes prior to the phone. Yeah, 254, right? Cares. All right. Let's see what this part says right here. The state submitted only a rebuttal disclosure for Detective Gilbertson function. His attorneys have argued in other motions that these deficits render it not possible for Mr. Kohberger to have acted with the speed and coordination required to commit the crimes in the time frame alleged by the state. However, this has not been disclosed as an opinion of any of the defendant's experts. In rebuttal, the state disclosed Detective Darren Gilbertson, a lead investigator for ISP in this case. The disclosure indicated he will testify that he and other investigators conducted timed runs at 1122 King Road to gain an understanding of the approximate time needed to have carried out the homicides. A report of the time runs is attached to his disclosure. It was performed to determine if one person could carry out the homicides. His opinion will be that, depending on the suspect's pace and route, he could have carried out the crimes in approximately 2 to 4 minutes. Oh my God, you guys. See, vindication. Yeah, I've been saying that forever. And I made a video 9 minutes, and then I made one of 7 minutes because 9 seemed too long. And you know, this is getting kind of interesting, right? Because if you go 2 to 4 minutes, and let's just use the outside range of 4, and he leaves at 4:17, then that means he is possibly entering the building at 4:13. Okay, and that's exactly when Xana's phone stopped using TikTok. And maybe she stopped using TikTok because she heard something. But that's interesting, right? I bet you Xana's phone corresponds. I actually said that a while ago. That it seems like the timing of him entering the building is connected to his TikTok. Her TikTok time. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, so, you know, I don't know if there's anybody new here, but, you know, on this channel, every single night I try to make videos that have ad revenue. I try to have people send super chats. I try to get channel memberships. We have none of those tonight. We're only at $7. This is the third night in a row that we'd be struggling. And I don't really understand it. I'm working my ass off to put out these shows and so forth. I don't know what's going on. You can see that at the end of each month, my channel, out of the income, donates money to various true crime related charities. And we did $22,000 in 2020, $42,000 in 2021, $62,000 in 2022, $57,350 in 2023, and $49,811 last year. And we're currently at $10,000 this year, behind the normal pace. I don't think everybody is. So if you're out there and you have the ability to help support the channel, try to keep things moving along like we had been doing, I would appreciate it. It just sort of, it's weird how sometimes it just drops off the face of the earth. You know, like out of nowhere. You know, like we'll have a bunch of great days going on, and then all of a sudden, you know. And I don't know how to make it that different. I don't know how to work harder to make it worth people's, you know, support. I don't know.
The mysterious cowboys that showed up where they're timing it.
Mysterious cowboys that showed up where timing. Nah, I don't know. I don't think those guys were. I want to know when they would do something like that. You probably would have done it like at way late at night, probably even 3 in the morning, to just kind of get a similar feel for it. Nah, it's not any recession. What a dumb comment. Let's see. I would love if they do a moment of silence in court to show how long. Well, I'm just saying, I did a 7-minute video and of time, and there's people would always say in this case, I mean, it's just almost lunacy when you hear it, when they go, there's no way one person could kill 4 people and, by himself in that short a time. Great. And it's like, yeah, they can. They all the victims were drinking, and they were drunk, and they were sleepy. And this guy comes in jacked up with a K-bar knife. Thanks, Von Dazen. I said, I wonder if the mysterious cowboys that showed up were timing it. I don't know. But I mean, let me just read this again. I mean, this is crazy. A report of the... So there was a timed run. A guy named Detective Darren Gilbertson, a lead investigator for ISP in this case. The disclosure indicates he will testify that he and other investigators conducted timed runs at 1122 King Road to gain an understanding of the approximate time needed to have carried out this homicide, the homicides. A report of the time runs is attached to this disclosure. It was performed to determine if one person could carry out the homicides. His opinion will be that. So there's actually an opinion. I mean, like, this isn't... We're hearing this. It didn't say that on ChatGPT. Hey, there we go. Somebody gifted a membership. Stephanie Sprague, thank you. And Shilar, is that it? Got one? All right. So, right, here's what his opinion is going to be. Depending on the suspect's pace and route, he could have carried out the crimes in approximately 2 to 4 minutes. And it's just absolutely accurate, okay? And I've even done it. I mean, the weird part is, well, let's just do this. Watch this. Let's just, I'm going to save this thing really quick. There's Balaclava Man. I don't even need to save it. Hey, thanks, Tracy. Can I keep doing the whiny voice? Will you keep... All right. All right, that one right there. I'm just going to show you. We're going to do my normal walkthrough, but it starts downstairs, and you can just trade that out. When I get him back to the bottom of the stairs, trade that out for him being in the kitchen. And you'll just be able to just tell intuitively. And it's backwards, but it's the same locations. So all the distance is the same, basically. Let's see, is it that one? I don't know why that guy's still on the screen. Thank you, Kristen Langley. Is that it? All right, watch this. So let's just do it like we're like somebody take a clock. I'll just do it on the screen. A clock, okay. Time. Let's see. I got a stopwatch. Yeah, right here. All right. So we'll just have this on the screen. Maybe I can do it where I can make this smaller. Let's see. All right. And then where's that clock? All right, we'll put that right over here, okay? Now just watch this and picture it in your mind. Hey, thanks so much, Carrie Little. And she said, thanks for all you do. And then we have Naomi Rollins gifted a membership to Iron King. So thank you guys. All right, here we go, watch. Well, let me stop that and go. Okay, so forget that part. There's the front door of the house. So just pretend this is the kitchen. Now watch this. And you're kind of going up the stairs, just slowly going up the stairs, let's say. I mean, you wouldn't even go around that far and then watch. Let's just pretend that Xana and them, it goes to all the same locations. But make the stairs going up the kitchen. It's actually longer. So now you're in here and attack, 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 ding, ding, you know, like what's going on? You're attacking people. you know, 10, 20, you know, let's just wait here for a little bit. You know, there's attacking going on in there, just over and over again, you know. And I've been trying to tell you guys this. I mean, it's just really clear, especially you have somebody that's committed. So he's in there, and right, so at this point he's probably dispatched both of them, I would think. Let's just give it another 10 seconds or so in this room, just to give it more time. Who knows what he's doing in here, but I mean, you can see this is already kind of a long time to be spending stabbing people, right? Then he comes out, and let's just say, you know, I'm going to quickly go through Dylan's room and come back out. Now there's the stairs on the left. You go up the stairs. Now we're going up to Madison's room. And then I have to quickly go through. I just did a walkthrough, right? So I have to quickly go out of that room. And then that's not even what he would have done. He would have just taken a quick right. And then goes into this room. And then he's attacking Madison and Kaylee in here. All right? So that's what's happening in this room. All right? So he's in here. He's attacking them. You know, I'll just keep going back and forth for a little bit. You know, who knows what he's doing. You know, maybe that representing a knife or something. It's just, you know, he's in this room. Let's just give it another 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. I mean, it's already to the point where it's kind of long. He's probably already killed one easily. Now he's attacking the other one. Do another like 20 seconds or so. And I'll just keep waiting. Okay, so now he's done in that room. And then he exits. Just like that. Hold on, I gotta go back here. So he exits. Goes down the stairs. So this is correct, the way this is set up. And then out this... Well, in the other story, he walks from this direction because Xana and Ethan are last. And so that, I guess her sighting... And I don't know why that's never popped into my mind. But the fact that she sees him on that last sound, that means he was coming from Xana's room. And then look, boom, look at the time right there, you guys. 2:55, 3 minutes. Doesn't that seem like totally reasonable, even that? But we can let it tick away for another minute, you know, give it extra time. And yeah, I think like Xana was... you know, we know that Kohberger's coming by right through here, and Dylan's in that room right there. So, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I think I've thought of this before, but it's just sort of popping into my head. Well, he's coming from Xana's room. Now, is that the second time he was there or the first time? Because it could be that he went upstairs, and let's just say this time that I'm killing right now, he had to go back and attack Xana a second time after hearing her say, or her whimpering, and then he said, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." All right, so he's already done with that, and now he's exiting. Okay, so even that's like 4 minutes. I mean, I just I want people to... I was trying to do that with the 7 minutes, but I didn't want to freak people out. But even when I would talk about it, I'd say, I think this could be 5 minutes or less, you know. And you know, a lot of people just don't... they get... I don't know what it is. They just get sort of this weird tunnel vision. Just do... I'm trying to do these experiments for you guys to look at and be able to see what I'm talking about. And that's why I do these those videos where it's 7 minutes, etc. And I kind of wonder if we... how about if we open that back up again? That might be something worthwhile. And now I can... Because that one is the same as what most people think. All right, hold on. Let me just get it. And then we can do the timing on that. I just have to go find it really fast. 7 minutes. No, it's 7 with the 7. Yep, there it is. And I can Pretty loud. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that are missing because they're all just watching Karen Reed. Aren't you sick to death of Karen Reed case? I mean, my God, you guys. Especially if you didn't watch the first trial. You're an outsider because you won't know all the crazy stuff that you're supposed to know that they're not saying this time. And hey, thanks, Flora. Yeah, I feel like I should have covered Karen Reed just for the pure, sub grab or something. But I don't know. I don't like just if something's boring to me, I don't do it. Let's see. Tired of Karen. I mean, it's just weird. It's kind of like the same thing every day. Those people are making something up. It's a cover up. It's just one big, and then the other side says something else. Thanks, Flora. Gray, do you know if there are any police interviews with BK on video after arrest? Well, he got pulled over twice on the way home. That's about it. All right, I have to try something else. My download software thing isn't working, but I can do it over here because it's my video. There it is. All right. Well, right now I'm downloading the other one. I think it'd be kind of interesting to use Premiere. Yeah, I actually started doing Karen Reed. I was going to do this quick version, and I go, you know what? I don't want to do it. Come on, open up. Man, everything's just slow as hell. Alright, let's see. I'm just about ready to get it. There it is. Okay, so this is I go through the whole thing in this video, even to the point where he gets out of the car. But I have him going in at like 4:10, but I was always kind of like, I think it's a little bit later, like even in other walkthroughs or discussions I had, it was more like 4:12, 4:11, 4:12. So let's just go from right there, right? And then let's just cut out all my waiting time. As a matter of fact, let's just do a little bit. So he goes in. He's already in Madison's room. And then we'll cut out from right there of me. I'm just talking anyway. Let's just do like that. Let's see. So once he goes in there, it's, let's say 45 seconds or so. Maybe like right in there, right? That's it. Then and right when it turns back on, so right there, Okay, and there's Ethan in the hall. Alright, so let's just do 4:13:15 or something. I'll just do 20, make it a little longer, get rid of that. Okay. Slide that in there, then and that's Xana. And then maybe do 40 seconds again. Something like that. Alright, you guys, we're having one of those massive lulls again, so if you have the ability to help support the channel, that'd be great. We're only currently at 1/8 of a nightly goal. So we're just we had 2 horrendous nights in a row. Now we're just working on a third, trying to get out of the doldrums. Alright, and there's Dylan right there. Look, see that? How she's peeking through the door. And then out. Boom. Let's just go to there. Going out the door. Alright. So, now that we have that, let's see what happens when I move this over here, and it'll tell us exactly how long it is. See, this right here is at the timeline. That's not the time up there. It's 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Alright, so forget the time clock that you're seeing on the screen there. Alright, that is not, it's not going to be relevant. Now here we go. We'll just do, I'll hit this one first, then that one. As you can see, that hold on. I don't think that works. Let's unlink them. Alright, so just watch this. This would be like a normal, like if you were, this is the order that people think. There's nothing really unusually quick or anything. There's too wasted time here going into Kaylee's room. Maybe that will make the difference in the maybe slower walk up the stairs. Alright, and then goes into this room, and then here's where, they're getting killed. But the actual time is on the left there. But that's what we say. When we were playing this, even the 7-minute one, you're just sitting there just going, my God, this is a long time. See, like in that room right now, he could have already killed both Kaylee and Madison at that point. And then he goes down the stairs. And then it's like, oh, hey, somebody's here. And he goes running out there. But that was probably Xana. And there's Ethan like, hey, stop, Oh, I guess I didn't do the time after him. Hold on a second. Maybe let's put some. So 4:12. So I probably need to add about like that. Alright, so let's just do the Ethan portion again. I'll do this whole part here. Like I said, even after doing all that fixing and editing and shit like that, look at the clock on the left. I haven't stopped that one. It'll still probably be 3 minutes and something. Thanks, Alley Cake. So here's some time. So that clock that's on the screen, the big one, that's irrelevant. It's just the one on the left. So even with me stopping, going back, and it says 2:40 on the screen down here. And then he goes after Xana. And I add extra time on this one. Hey, thanks Susie Clue for the coffee. And then we'll get back to the document here in a minute, but I just wanted to do a quick little test here. So look, that's Xana and Ethan. It's already taken too long. Right there, okay? And then he's in the room, then he leaves. And he goes out. And then look at right there, there's Dylan on the left. He makes his way out, and boom. So look, that's 3 minutes and 17 seconds or so. And doesn't that just seem reasonable? The amount of time there? I mean, it went slowly to each room, and it's actually quicker than the one I just showed you because I actually stopped it and had to add some time for a second and then came back. Hey, look at that. Genie Guy, 24 months. All right. And thanks for everybody buying the new memberships for people, too. All right. Defendant argues Detective Gilbertson's testimony should be excluded because, 1, the state has failed to disclose how Detective Gilbertson is an expert in timed runs. Well, he just does it. The relevance is minimal. 3, important data, i.e. recording, photographs, and notes of the experiment was noted, disclosed, and for his opinion carries a risk of juror confusion and prejudice on the... Why is it prejudice, by the way, to say how fast a crime could have been committed? Hey, thanks, Jeannie, for buying those memberships, or that membership. And thanks, Hannah Whitaker. Was Anna killed first when he entered? I don't know. I made a video on that. I thought that, but I don't know. Now I'm just not certain. I think now it's more likely that, I don't know. You know what's weird is I think it could be that Xana and Ethan, this is what my video said, that Xana and Ethan were killed first. Then he goes upstairs to Madison and Kaylee and then attacks Xana again because she's whimpering and still alive. And that was my original theory. I don't know if I think that's less likely than going upstairs first and then coming down. I just don't really understand the, hey, it's okay, I'm here to help you in that scenario, unless like they weren't together, Xana and Ethan, and he killed Ethan and Xana wasn't around. Like maybe she was in the kitchen at that time. And so he went back to that room and it was Ethan. He killed him, and then Xana comes and he goes, no, hey, I'm just here to help. And he's all bloody. Then he attacks Xana. I mean, that sort of has a ring of some kind of a reality to it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, like maybe she was in the kitchen when he came down, and then he goes into the living room to go to Xana's room. Why he would do that, I don't know. But then she comes back to the room after hearing something, and he goes, hey, no, I'm just here to help. Right. Well, I mean, that's what my original theory was, just over time. And even I just made a video just like a month or so ago about how Xana and Ethan maybe were first, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like law enforcement believes that, so I guess we have to go with that. Hey, thanks so much, Lynette Edes. Hello, Gray and all. Well, hello to you. Hold on, I gotta read a message here from the my dad's, what's going on there. Well, that's good. I guess my mom's doing well over at the place that they're at, and my brother came into town and they went to dinner and with one of the friends that they met there, I guess. So that's good. Anyways, hey, thanks, Lynette. Yeah, it could turn out to be true. There's a lot of stuff that we hear oftentimes in cases that law enforcement, somehow people say that law enforcement said, and then it turns out not to be true when the trial happens. Or when there's a press conference or something like that. I don't know if you missed it though, Alan McMahon, but look it up here. It says, and this is like the key takeaway that I got out of this document was a report of a timed run. So the police timed their runs and did some experimenting of how quickly somebody could kill all four of them. And it said, it was performed to determine if one person could carry out the homicides. His opinion will be that, depending on the suspect's pace and route, it could have carried out the crime approximately 2 to 4 minutes. So, man, I was saying, I said 5 or less, but, they're saying 2 to 4, which means if you're moving quickly, it could be 2 minutes. And I just showed on the screen again an edited version of this thing here, and let's just do this again. Watch. Hit the play button there, and then play here. And forget the time on the screen. Let's just do it one more time. This time I won't have to stop it. So this is like the classic order of things. Of course, he didn't go into Kaylee's room, so here's some, wasted about 5 seconds doing that. And then goes into here, goes into Madison's room, and then he's in there. He walks right over. Now he's attacking Madison. Probably stabbed her. He probably is done with Madison right now. And then Kaylee's in there. Now he's attacking her. Striking her multiple times. Over and over and over and over. It's just brutal as hell in there. And then, eventually he's done in there. But see, this is, now we're already getting to the point where, well, this is kind of long already. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and this is what I'd always say when I'd review the video. It's like, this seems too long. And then here he goes. Now he's out of Madison and Kaylee's room. Like a minute something into this. And then he goes down the stairs and maybe, and this is just the order of things. All right, and then here is, that's Ethan. And then this attack happens. Let's just we have separate time for Ethan and Xana in case they're separated somehow. And all these people are, I don't think, Ethan wasn't in the hallway or anything like that. I'm just, I was coming up with, we once thought he was found outside the doorway and he wasn't. I say, and there's Xana. Now he goes into the room. Now he's attacking her. You can see the clock up there, 1:53, 54. And now he's, I don't put on the screen that he's actually attacking. Hey, thanks, Chosen. Gifted a membership to Hannah Whitaker, who just said a comment a minute ago. Right, but look at how much time this is taking. So I gave too much time to Xana and Ethan, and then he comes out the door. Dylan's right there, sees him walking, goes out the kitchen, and look, he's outside in 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Right, so when I made it 7 minutes, it was just so that it wouldn't scare people away. Like, oh, wow. But, when we would do it on the show and go over it, it was always, man, this is still way too long in between the time. All right, back to this. Whether Detective Gilbertson's opinions are relevant will depend on what Mr. Turvey and Dr. Orr opine to at trial. While Dr. Turvey does not specifically state in his report that one assailant could not have accomplished the murders in the short time frame alleged by the state, he infers as much through his opinion that there was evidence of cleanup efforts. Oh man, now we're getting more shit. Cleanup efforts at the crime scene. Wow. Well, what was he cleaning up, though? I mean, if he didn't get cut or leave anything of his own. But man, we're getting some new stuff here. His opinion that there was evidence of cleanup efforts at the crime scene, which would have taken significantly longer period of time. Further, while Dr. Orr's report does not opine, yeah, if there's time where he's around cleaning stuff up, then yes, that would add time. Like if he was trying to clean himself off. Further, while Dr. Orr's report does not opine as to what deficits in fine motor dexterity and visual motor function defendant suffers from, to the extent she testifies to these deficits at trial, it may render Detective Gilbertson's opinions relevant to rebut any inference that defendant could not have single-handedly committed the crimes in less than 15 minutes. Further, given Detective Gilbertson's role as the lead detective for ISP, the investigation, he is well qualified to offer his opinion on suspected movement throughout a crime scene. In addition, there does not appear to be disclosure violation due to lack of underlying data. It was a simple experiment consisting of timing Detective Gilbertson moving through the house at a slower speed and then a faster speed. His routes were described as well, his pauses, to simulate the number of stab wounds each autopsy showed. Do you guys see what I'm saying? That's kind of what my video did. You know, I went to the rooms, then I just have a clock ticking away, and I had people visualize what was going on, and it was way too long, even the 7-minute one. It does not appear there are any photographs or recording or any other data not already described therein. As for defendant IRE 403 concerns, they are baseless. The state represents that there were no structural changes to the house when Detective Gilbertson performed his experiments. The fact that it was vacated or that Detective Gilbertson was familiar with the home, which would presumably allow him to conduct a faster timed run, is fodder for cross-examination, not exclusion. So even if he didn't know the home, 4 minutes is a long time. And he knew where to look at. I'm just telling you, if you're parked out in that back there, you can see that there's stairs that go up. Okay? And when you go into the, here, let's just do this. I'm gonna go to this part here. So look, there's the kitchen right back through there. I don't know if you can see it, but that little dark sliver, that's the slider or a window in there. And I'll just go all the way to the end. All right, hold on. Yeah, so if you came in this sliding glass door and you already knew that just after you come in, there's got to be some stairs. Well, this is the stairs right here. I'm just coming down the stairs, right? So if you came through that slider, you go this way. Oh, there's the stairs. And you go right up the top of the stairs. And then when you go up, let me just go back in time. So there's the kitchen. He would have came right in like this, gone up these stairs, and then at the top, how hard is it to figure out, oh, wow, I remember that. Her room's on the right. Okay, I'm going into Kaylee's room just because that's what this animation does. But you turn to the right, and then you know that that's her room right there. it's not, I don't think it would be hard to deduce by being outside to be able to do that. But let's see, you guys, currently we're at about 33% of a nightly goal. So if you guys have the ability to support the channel, my channel relies on you guys during the live streams to help support what we're doing. There is no ad revenue to speak of, really. I mean, maybe $8 or something they give you on live streams. There's more on videos, but this isn't a video, so I need your guys' support on the live streams so that we can continue to do all the great stuff we do at the end of the month as well. All right, so if you have the ability to, that would be awesome. His footprints are in the house. I wonder, since he didn't have a sheath. Oh, well, he did have a sheath. And then he either left it there intentionally or he lost it. I also have questions. I don't have any questions for the roommates. Yeah, everybody, it's just so, I get so sick and tired of everybody wanting to question the roommates over and over and over. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't you know what? They didn't. That's it. That's the answer. So unless you think that they're involved in the homicides, just give it a rest, okay? All right. Let's see. As for defendant IRE 403 concern, thus any concerns of prejudice in regard to his own doing. Finally, defendant cites no basis for jury confusion. Consequently, Detective Gilbertson's disclosed testimony will not be excluded or limited at this time. All right. Man, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, they just said that. Well, one of the experts is going to testify that they think, I'm not sure if it's for the defense team or whose team, but they're going to, I think it's prosecution side. So, I mean, it's sort of, I guess what he's saying is 2 to 4 minutes, the homicides could have taken place. Hey, thanks so much, CR. Hey, there's one for Becky K, Chris, Tattooed, Fat Dude, Tammy, and Tiffany Bayhen. Okay, ISP Forensic Lab Scientists. The state disclosed several... I think we need to go through this whole thing because I'm actually going to start over. We'll skip past the... Because they're giving us a whole bunch of new information in these documents, and so I don't want to miss something that they might have set up here. So Jenny Ayers is a forensic scientist with the Idaho State Police Forensic Services who works in evidence collecting at crime scene processing. She is disclosed to testify in the state's case in chief about crime scene processing, generally including collecting DNA, blood stains, latent fingerprints, hair fibers, shoe impressions. She will explain what DNA is, that it may be present in biological material or left on an item when handled, and that is collected for preservation and sent elsewhere for testing. She also is going to testify to her work in this case, detailed in Lab Report 25 and reporting field notes. That report discusses ISP's processing of defendant's Pullman apartment and Washington State University office, which included photographing and collecting evidence. Isn't that interesting? I didn't even think about that, but they went into his Pullman, Washington office and collected, maybe he transferred some DNA into there. Miss Ayers was specifically involved in capturing images of the apartment and office and performing presumptive tests for the presence of blood at various points in the apartment. Did she find something? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that they're even... Her rebuttal testimony concerns ISP crime scene what do you mean? Hold on. So who is this Jenny Ayers? She works at the state. So her rebuttal testimony concerns ISP crime scene investigation procedures generally and the ISP forensic team processing of the crime scene at 1122 King Road, including identifying areas that contain probative evidence. In addition, the lab report 11, and field notes for the team's work are referenced by Bates within the disclosure. Defendant argues Miss Ayers' case in chief disclosures do not provide any opinions she has about crime scene processing or about DNA at issue in the case. Thus, he asked the court to limit her testimony to her qualifying background, like she's not a forensic, like a DNA expert or something. So they don't want her to be able to say anything. As to her rebuttal disclosure, defendant argues again that it fails to provide any opinion about crime scene investigation procedures, and it does not clearly state that what she did in processing 1122 King Road and what her opinion is regarding that work. Defendant challenges misapprehended the type of expert Miss Ayers is. Defendant's challenges misapprehended the type of expert Miss Ayers is. Much like law enforcement, Miss Ayers is a hybrid fact expert witness as opposed to a traditional expert. She will be educating the jury on crime scene investigation procedures to provide foundation for her testimony regarding the work she and her team performed in this case, as outlined in lab reports 25 and 11 and the accompanying field notes. The testimony is factual in nature, despite the fact that it requires special knowledge, skill, experience, and training. Consequently, the absence of opinion in her disclosure does not limit her ability to testify to these matters. So they didn't limit her at all. I don't think it was rude at all, Michelle. See, that's the thing. You get these people, if you say, it's not rude at all. When people keep asking about Dylan and Bethany over and over and over again, it just gets so old, you guys. We've done it. We've talked about it. So just get over it, okay? They have nothing to do with the crime. And I don't care if you unsubscribe, Michelle. You weren't somebody I appreciated having around. What an embarrassment. My God. Wake up every morning wondering about Dylan. What did Dylan? Unless you think she's the killer, get over it. Let's see what it says. And do you think they will write them a free pass over and over and over? The jury will have the same questions as no, they won't, because they'll be able to listen to it. And yeah, I'm sure they might be like, well, gosh, how come none of you called 911? That's just it's a natural thought. But you don't have to have an answer for it. I mean, people are just different. And it's mind-boggling how so many people have to have the answer to that question. And they can't move forward without it. And man, that's just going to keep you from ever... Because you know what's amazing? We're sitting in here talking about a bunch of new information and interesting stuff, and you're still stuck on why Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk didn't call 911 sooner. I mean, my God. I'm sure you will, Christina. I'm sure you will. And nobody got to see your comment. It was removed. I'm just sharing what you wrote. All right, let's see. So Special Agent Nicholas Balance. FBI Special Agent Balance. I'm interested in this for sure. Was primarily involved in the analysis of cell phone records in the investigation. He is disclosed to testify in the state's case in chief about analysis of AT&T cell phone records for defendant Madison Mogen, for defendant, Madison Mogen, Xanaker Nodal, as well as his own drive testing measurements to determine the use and general location of their cell phones between June. Wow, that's going to be interesting. They're probably going to produce evidence that shows that Kohberger may have been following them, because why would that matter? You know, like general location of their cell phones between June 2022 and November 2022. And they want to see how many times were they out and about when Kohberger's vehicle was in a similar location. Hey, Jeannie Guy said, someone double this and continue it on. Well, there you go. Hey, look at that. Von Dazen. I don't know if he did it intentionally, but yeah. I guess the earlier you help out, the better. Thanks, Jeannie. And thank you, Von Dazen. But what about Dylan Gray? Come on, put a 1 if you're sick of everybody asking about Dylan and Bethany every single day. Come on, just I get it at the beginning, okay? The 911 call should have cleared up any of your guys' doubt, okay? My God, it was, and their text messaging, they are freaking out, okay? Nobody's lives was going to be saved by them. Okay, at least there's some of you out there that it's just absolutely crazy, you know? All right, who's going to do it? Didn't you see what Jeannie Guy typed in? She said, someone double this and continue it on. We got to try to reach the goal tonight. We've missed it 2 nights in a row and hoping for tonight. All right. I think this is really interesting right here, though, because I think they're trying to... Why did they... see, here's what they're saying. Madison Mogen and Xanaker Nodal, which is interesting because... Is that who his 2 intended targets were? Is that what they're doing here? I mean, because it does have a feel that maybe they think that Madison Mogen and Xanaker Nodal were his targets. Because why wouldn't you test any of the other roommates or Kaylee's phone? Well, she was out of town. But it's interesting, right? This guy tracked the defendant, Madison Mogen, and Xanaker Nodal, as well as his own drive testing measurements to determine the use and general location of their cell phones. Hey, thanks, Suzanne Flynn. Let's see. The state should have your 3D video to prove to the jury that he had more than enough time in that window. I might have to make a new one to commit the crime. The blacked out screen with time ticking during attacks is chilling. Yeah, because then it allows your mind to try to, you know, I hate to say visualize, but, you know, just kind of like briefly visualize something and go, wow, okay, yeah, this is done at this point. And we have Vicstar, and then, hey, there's CR, said keep it going, and then Alley Cake, Jeannie Guy double. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah. That's really interesting. Wasn't it Madison Mogen and Xana who worked together, though? I wonder if that's the key there. Didn't they both work at a restaurant? All right, let's see. I got Mad Greek. Right. And no, it wasn't a vegetarian restaurant. They had a menu that's vegetarian. Okay? As well as about 900 other restaurants in the north, not in that town, because that would be like saying there's 50,000 Elantras in that town. A rebel also in the same sorority, right? Okay, so let's just do this again here. Okay, this one sentence. He is disclosed to testify in the state's case in chief about his analysis of AT&T's cell phone records for defendant Madison Mogen and Xana Kernodle, as well as his own drive testing measurements to determine the use and general location of their cell phones between June 2022 and November 2022. Accompanying his initial disclosure is his 30-page CAS report, which discusses and maps the data he reviewed and the methodology employed. His supplemental disclosure goes through each page of the CAS report to discuss its significance. He also discusses topics pertaining to how cellular technology works, particularly how cell towers operate and how cell phones connect to the towers, how cell phone usage data is reflected in call detail records, and how those records provided by AT&T for the target cell phones in the case were used to create cell site maps showing their general location before and after the homicides and their direction of travel. Who's there? Who are you talking about? In challenging Agent Balance case in chief disclosure, defendant provided the affidavit of, maybe they're talking about Kohberger before and after. Defendant provides the affidavit of his cell phone data expert, Cy Ray, the discredited hack, in my opinion. Mr. A complains that he is unable to identify Agent Balance's methodology, which was described in the CAS report. Mr. A states that the CAS report omits data and or fails to mention how certain AT&T data was utilized in his analysis, namely handoff data and drive test mapping, and why some data was ignored. He asserts, what must suck is to try to figure out how to make somebody seem innocent. To go out there and try to make somebody, like, the thing is, facts say what they say. So when somebody's guilty, and then you have to go and sit there and manipulate the way the data looks to make your claim. Man, how do you sleep at night with all that? I was saying a minute ago, I think that they are trying to see if Kohberger's phone was anywhere near Madison Mogen and Xana Kernodle. Why would you care what they were doing? Like, why would you take down Madison Mogen and Xana Kernodle's cell data information from June until November when the homicides happened? See, they want to see if Kohberger was stalking them. That is exactly what this is right here. Do you guys agree with that? They are trying to see if Kohberger's phone, during that time, if there's some moments, perhaps on, his trips over there or other times, that his phone was in the general vicinity of those two. Why would he have his own account following him? You mean them? Yeah, his account following them, right. Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think that's right. In challenging Agent Balance's case in chief disclosure, defendant provides the affidavit of his cell phone data expert, Cy Ray, Mr. Ray. Yeah, we did that. According to the state, he said he asserts this omitted data and methodology is exculpatory, and without it, he cannot fairly analyze Agent Balance's work. According to the state, its disclosure sufficiently identify Agent Balance's opinions and the facts and data he relied upon, and defendant's concerns are fodder for cross-examination. In fact, in Agent Balance's rebuttal disclosure, the state marches through each concern outlined by Mr. Ray, offering additional explanation about what Agent Balance considered, including the handoff data and why. Defendant, however, asserts the attempted clarification in the rebuttal disclosure is insufficient, arguing there is no disclosure as to why he has omitted 95% of the relevant coverage maps for his drive testing. No analysis or mapping of the handoff data and no documentation provided of the CAS report peer review process. However, the fact remains that defendant has all the facts and data that Agent Balance relied upon to perform his opinions, which are expressed within the CAS report. Initial disclosure. The data supporting Mr. Balance's opinion is located in the files of the cell phone records provided by AT&T and the drive testing files which were provided to defense through discovery. Identifying disclosure information relied upon by Agent Balance by descriptive AV number and date disclosed. While his methodology might not be set forth with as much specificity as Mr. Ray would like, Rule 16 does not require that detailed methodology be provided. It requires merely opinions, facts, and data for those opinions, and the witness qualifications. To the extent defendant believes Agent Balance omitted important data or is relying on insufficient data for his opinions, this is fodder for cross-examination, not exclusion. See, here the thing with the defense is trying all these different things, but in the reality what's going to come down to is that the jury is going to start believing all of the different pieces of information because they'll already have proven that Kohberger was in the house, that it was his white Elantra missing a front license plate, that was doing, circling the house like a shark trying to capture a meal, and eventually the white Elantra parks at 4:08, and then it's seen driving away at a high rate of speed at 4:20 and 47 seconds. So that means in that 12 minutes and 47 seconds, inside of that time frame, when a white Elantra missing its front license plate that Kohberger owns was parked outside, all four of the victims were killed. And during the killing, a knife sheath was left on Madison Mogan's bed with Brian Kohberger's DNA on it, therefore proving that the white Elantra that was parked outside and driving around like a shark circling its prey was his. Yeah, I know, Skylar. I know. Let me get through my story. And so that's it. That's all that really matters. And then you get the cell phone data. And who are they going to listen to? Cyray? Or, wow, okay, this is making sense because his vehicle was right there. The DNA is a big deal, but you could still make the case without the DNA. But the DNA is a big deal because it really proves that that white Elantra driving around missing its front license plate is his. If there is no reasonable doubt about that. Like, you're not being reasonable if you say, well, it could still be a different white Elantra driving around missing a front license plate, and that was just touch DNA, and then you have to go through this long rigmarole of crap. Again, Kohberger, the most unlucky human on the planet. All right, we're currently, you guys, at about 50% of the goal. So if you guys can, if you're out there and you like the work that I do, you guys are the source of the support for the live streams, and that allows me to keep doing these shows. And then it also, at the end of the month, you might want to check in 6 days from now, and you'll see we've already given away 1,000 this month. I think we did 500 to Knickknack and 500 to Rain which is violence against women. So that's already been given out. And that's what we'll be doing on the last day of the month too. But the only way that happens is if we're continually reaching the goals on a nightly basis. And we're not, we're about 54% or something. All right, so if you have the ability to, that would be great. The owner of Magritte said so soon after BK was in custody that he never went there. Right, I remember that. Well, thanks for the coffees, Melinda. I've been following you since the beginning of this and appreciate each video. You make the most sense of anyone out there. Well, thank you. And then we have Lisa Valenzuela, the coffee queen. And then Naomi said, thanks for all you do. I appreciate your videos and time making them. And Susie Clue for the coffees. All right. Gonna have to get another wave going to get there, you guys. All right, so looks like for this person, to the extent defendant believes Agent Bound submitted important data or is relying on insufficient data for his opinion, this is fodder for cross-examination. Right, like if you don't agree with him, you can just bring your expert up. All right, now here's the Heather Jared Bernhardt. Intentionally caught or dumb. I don't think he was I think he's, I don't know if he's, I just think he thought he was smarter than he was. I don't know if he's literally like an idiot, but I don't think he intentionally got caught. I think he made, his fatal mistake was leaving the DNA on the knife sheath that was left in the room. Now, if he left it there unintentionally and just missed cleaning the little part on the button snap, well, you know, he was trying to leave a calling card and it bit him in the ass. Hey, thanks, CR. Yeah, you do. We give, you know, I mean, we've given Texas EquiSearch over 20,000. I mean, I think it's like 25 now. That was like last year. We'd already given 20,000 to Rain, 20,000 to NCMEC, 20,000 to Texas EquiSearch. And, you know, we've given to multiple other ones too. We have a DNA fund that's probably our biggest thing that we've put well over 100,000 in that one. And we use it for identifying Jane and John Does we pay for it basically. There's people out there or organizations, law enforcement agencies that don't have the funds, so we pay the $4,000 to $6,000 it costs to collect the DNA, get the sequence, upload it to GEDmatch, and then start doing the identification. So that's why I need you guys to support you guys. No, that guy sucks, Ruthie. I don't ever want to be compared with that guy. Yeah, a guy that I'm not even going to go through it. You guys, it's almost like they're trolls or something. I don't get it, man. Let's see. So Heather Jared Barnhart. The Barnharts are digital specialists with Cellebrite who were retained by law enforcement to analyze defendant's cell phone and PC to determine user behavior and actions. They are disclosed to opine that the gaps in data on the two devices were abnormal. On two devices, huh? What's the other one? Attached to the disclosures is a report jointly authored by the Bernhardt detailing their analysis. Huh. What do you mean two devices? Yeah, Texas EchoSearch is good. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of little nuggets in this thing. You know, it's crazy. Okay, so 2 devices. They are disclosed to opine that the gaps in data on the 2 devices were abnormal. Attached to the disclosure is a report jointly authored. The defendant argues that the disclosures indicate they will testify to habit evidence, which he complains is not explained and is not accompanied by any opinions. Defendant challenges is confusing. Nowhere to the disclosure or the report indicate the Barnharts will testify about habit evidence, rather than the disclosure states they will testify to their findings pertaining to defendant's activities on his, okay, so his PC and cell phone. Now, I guess that's what it's saying up there. All right, so let's read that first sentence again. Retain defendant's cell phone and PC to determine, and they say that both those devices have abnormal gaps in the 2 devices were abnormal. Well, why would I don't know, understand the PC gap. Like, what is that? The Barnhart's opinions regarding these topics are fully set forth in their joint report. Let's see, for example, defendant complained at the hearing that Agent Balance. Hey, look at Ted Bundy is up there sending coffees. We got one from Caitlin Strickland and good old Ted Bundy. All right. For example, defendant complained at the hearing that Agent Balance analyzed handoff data for the 7 minutes prior to the phone powering off at 2:54 a.m. on November 13, 2022, but did not provide an opinion about what his analysis showed. Thus, defendant wants to exclude any opinion as to what his analysis of those 7 minutes showed. However, as pointed out in oh, because they didn't have it, now that you came up with 254, they can't talk about that 7 minutes now? What a, like little kids, you know? So what did he rule on it? There is no basis to exclude or limit their testimony. Okay. And now Michael Douglas, the Michael Douglas. Can you believe it? Just kidding. Mr. Douglas is a forensic accountant for the FBI and is disclosed to testify to financial transaction data for defendant for 4 victims and the 2 other roommates. Wow, so they're I think they're going to like show. I mean, why would you care about their financial records unless there's overlap time? Oh God, this is going to be crazy. Like stalking information. I think this is going to turn into that Brian Kohberger. Just listen to what I'm saying, you guys. This is what it's going to turn out to. That Brian Kohberger was absolutely methodically over time stalking Madison Mogen and perhaps Xander Kernodle, because now those 2 were linked a minute ago. And I think this is going to turn into, this is absolutely crazy. Wow, CR, thank you. It's amazing. This is going to be incredible. Just remember what I'm telling you. And they're going to show that Brian Kohberger was at different places that they went, and they're getting their purchase information, and they might even have receipts that he has at the same place at the same time, and he was walking around. Isn't that amazing? But wow, thanks so much, CR. Wow, look at that. Can I get? I think I turned that on too late. I wanted to. Because look at that. I knew we needed to go through these because I was thinking, okay, ChatGPT didn't give us the rundown very well. I might have to make a video with most of this stuff on it, just the shortened version. Would you guys still watch it? At least it'll be like ding, 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 ding. His initial disclosure identifies by category and date range the financial transaction data he intends to testify to and appends Mr. Douglas's report to specific transactions found within these individual financial data. His supplemental disclosure identifies more specifically the financial data associated with defendant that he intends to discuss, and also identifies video evidence obtained showing defendant's ATM withdrawals. So it says, testify financial transaction data for defendant, the 4 victims, and the 2 other roommates. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Defendant contends that Mr. Douglas should not be able... So this is what Kohberger's defense team is saying. Defendant contends that Mr. Douglas should not be able to offer any opinions because none are expressed in his disclosures. Specifically, defendant notes that Mr. Douglas' supplemental disclosure indicates he will testify to an analysis of defendant's spending habits. Defendant takes issue with this, arguing there is no pending habit opinion disclosed. However, Mr. Douglas' disclosure makes clear that he is intended as fact witness and is only being disclosed as an expert in the event the court determines his testimony was based on specialized knowledge under IRE 702. Moreover, although the supplemental disclosure appears to indicate he will offer an opinion on defendant's spending habits, and his testimony will be limited to factual changes in how defendant spent money. For example, the disclosure notes defendant only conducted ATM withdrawals on and after the date of the homicides. Hey, thanks, Alley Cake. There you go.
CR's ocean wave emoji.
Oh.
Ocean wave emoji.
There it is. Yeah, very cool. Hey, thanks. Thank you, guys. I'm just trying to, let me just, Mr. Douglas' disclosure makes clear that he intended as a fact witness and is only being disclosed as an expert. Defendant contends that Mr. Douglas, spending habits, defendant takes issue with the arguing there's no spending habit opinion disclosed. And then down here, for example, the disclosure notes defendant only conducted AT&T withdrawals on and after the date of the homicide and ceased using his debit card after November 10th. Let's see. For example, the disclosure notes defendant only conducted ATM withdrawals on and after. I think they meant to say before. I'm not sure when you say on and after the date of the homicide, and ceased using the debit card on November 10th. That's 3 days before the homicide. Whereas prior to November 10th, he had regularly used his debit card. There is no indication he will attempt to opine about the reasons for the spending changes, just that they occurred. Thus, there's no basis for excluding or limiting Mr. Douglas's testimony based upon disclosure concerns. Huh. I think that's an error right here. That's why I had to keep reading it. Does that mean this doesn't make sense, right? For example, the disclosure notes defendant only conducted AT&T or ATM withdrawals on and after the date of the homicides. I think this is supposed to be before here. Right? Because here it doesn't say that. It says he stopped using it on November 10th. So that's not on the date. Yeah. Anyways, what sounds ridiculous? And then Shane Cox. Mr. Cox is a litigation and regulatory manager for Amazon.com. His initial disclosure states Mr. Cox will testify to the content
of documents produced by Amazon to law enforcement pertaining to an Amazon account associated with Brian Kohberger. The document include the order history between January 5th, 2022. Okay, that's going to be the balaclava and the K-bar knife and I guess a sharpener. And December 13th, 2022. So after the homicide. And prior to him, just before he got arrested. And click history and sign-in history for specific dates in that time frame. The documents are referenced by Bates number. His supplemental disclosure identifies with specificity the facts Mr. Cox will be testifying to from the identified documents. As with the challenge to Mr. Douglas, defendant asserts that Mr. Cox should not be able to offer any opinions because none are expressed in his disclosures. Again, Mr. Cox is a fact witness and will not be offering opinions on the documents. See, the way the questions are going to be worded will sort of answer the question, you know. So you're telling me that that the knife that he ordered was a Eagle Globe, you know, USMC Eagle Globe K-bar knife with a sheath? Yes. And see, what they're going to have before that is you're going to have Dylan Mortensen will already be up there, and you'll already talk about the knife sheath will be talked about already. I don't know. I wonder if you bring up the knife sheath with DNA on it after you've already established that he purchased the very same exact type of knife before, and then later you bring it up and they go, oh, wow, he bought one of those? And now it's, I think that's a better way to do it. Like almost chronological, where I think it's better to do it that way than to say his knife sheath had DNA on it, and it's a K-bar, it came from a K-bar knife, and then later on when you're doing, I just think that you do it in order. And then obviously you have your opening argument. So you're trying to let the jury be aware that you're going to be associating these things later. You know, you'll find out that Brian Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife sheath in January, or a K-bar knife in January with a sheath. And then at the crime scene, you'll find out that a K-bar knife sheath was left on the bed of Madison Mogan that had Brian Kohberger's DNA on it, and that knife sheath was the same USMC Eagle, you know, see what I'm saying? I mean, that would just be absolutely devastating. And then you say that in the opening, and then you prove all of that. That's how I would do it. All right, let's see. What are we at here? We still need, I think we're at 80%. So if we get 9 more, you know, gifted memberships, you know, 9 more of those, or 9 $5, will reach the goal after missing it for 2 nights in a row. And then I'll purchase 5 more memberships for the people watching that can't afford it. So if you're out there and you can afford it, if we can get 9 more channel memberships to reach the goal, then I'll send out 5 memberships myself. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that order sounds better? Like you're going to bring it up in the opening argument, and then you prove those elements I think in that particular order. I think you would actually, well, I mean, it's sort of weird, right? Because you have to kind of go through, the crime scene's pretty early. And then I guess you might say, and look, here's a knife sheath found. And then later on, you bring in the experts to talk about how Kohberger's DNA, he is freaking toast, man. Yeah, well, sounds like a pretty good one. Send me an email on that one, Laney Carter. Is that a non-profit, or what is that? All right, 8 more to go, you guys. 8 more to go. So, Shane Cox. No, that's the Amazon one. Okay, hold on. Jesus. I don't know what happened. I was trying to answer the phone, but it didn't answer. Oh yeah. Well, what was your aunt? What was your? How does your aunt connect to that? Was she a victim that was identified, or somebody who died who was identified through IgG? Okay. The documents are referenced by Bates number. His supplemental disclosure identifies with specificity the facts Mr. Cox will testify to from the identified documents. As with the challenge to Mr. Kohberger's, defendant asserts that Mr. Cox should not be able to offer any opinion because none are expressed in his disclosures. Again, Mr. Cox is a fact witness and will not be offering opinions on the documents apart from explaining what the documents show as outlined in the disclosures. There is no basis for exclusion. All right, now we're on to letter F, Darren Gilbertson. Defendant disclosed expert opinions from Brent Turvey that more than one assailant was necessary to accomplish the crime in the time frame alleged. Specifically, he asserts that 1, there is direct and indirect evidence that attempts were made by the suspect to clean up. Excuse me. Okay, so this is that other portion. To clean up the crime scene after the homicides, which would have taken far longer than the time interval alleged. Well, how do you know, though? You know, the time interval alleged by the state. There were multiple weapons used against Kaylee Gonzalez. That's what their defense is claiming. And Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time. Oh, well, there you go, you guys. I mean, that's a defense witness, but it says they're saying, alleged by the state, there were multiple weapons used. That's what they're claiming against Kaylee Gonzalez, and Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time. Well, that takes away the "it's okay, I'm here to help" thing. Maybe he was just saying it like other people have mentioned. You know, you're just, some loud noises upstairs, and you come in, "Hey, I'm just here to help," and they're like, "What? What?" And then he attacks them. I don't know. That doesn't sound right, but through his other expert, Rachel Orr, defendant has also submitted evidence that he suffers from developmental coordination disorder, which has resulted in deficits in fine motor dexterity and visual motor function. Give me a break. Jeez. All right, you guys, we need 8 more gifted channel memberships, or 5s, and then I guess it's 40 altogether. And then we'll reach the goal tonight, and then I can gift the 5 memberships. Let's see if we can do it. Right, this is all crap. These guys it's dumb. In rebuttal, the state disclosed, okay, right here it says, his attorneys have argued in other motions that these deficits render it not possible for Mr. Kohberger to have acted with the speed. He's probably going to come in with a cane pretty soon. Oh, come on. Hey, thanks, CR. You've been so generous already tonight. Thank you, though. Yeah, 3 more, though, you guys. Kim Zaniga, Tracy Reed, Afro or Troll, I'll say Troll, Maddie Graham, and Jamie Peace. However, this has not been disclosed as an opinion. Let me just read this whole sentence again. His attorneys have argued in other motions that these deficits render it not possible for Mr. Kohberger to have acted with the speed and coordination required to commit the crimes in the time frame alleged by the state. However, this has not been disclosed as an opinion of any of defendant's experts. In rebuttal, the state disclosed Detective Darren Gilbertson, a lead investigator for ISP in the case. This is the new information. The disclosure indicates he will testify that he and other investigators conducted timed runs at 1122 King Road to gain an understanding of the approximate time needed to have carried out the homicides. A report of the time runs is attached to his disclosure. It was performed to determine if one person could carry out the homicide. His opinion will be that, depending on the suspect's pace and route, he could have carried out the crimes in approximately 2 to 4 minutes. Couldn't agree more. Defendant argues Detective Gilbertson's testimony should be excluded because 1. The state has failed to disclose how Detective Gilbertson is an expert in timed runs. The relevance is minimal. 3. Important data, i.e. recordings, photographs, and notes of the experiment, was not disclosed. And 4. His opinion. Yeah, so we already went through this earlier. Whether the Detective Gilbertson's opinions are relevant will depend on what Mr. Turvey and Dr. Orr opine to at trial. While Dr. Turvey does not state in his report that one assailant could not have accomplished the murders in this short time frame alleged by the state, he infers as much through his opinion that there was evidence of cleanup efforts. Yeah. Anyways, it says that it may render Detective Gilbertson's opinion relevant to rebut an inference that defendant could not have single-handedly committed the crimes in less than 15 minutes. Further, Detective Gilbertson's role as a lead detective for ISP in the investigation, he is well qualified to offer his opinion on suspected movements throughout a crime scene. Hey, look at that. RDW, WDR. We need 2 more, you guys. 2 more. It was a simple experiment consisting of timing Detective Gilbertson moving through the house at a slower speed and a faster speed. His routes were described as well as pauses to simulate the number of stab wounds. That's what I would do in my video. See, I think I actually think sort of how like these guys think. That's why I have the darkness. That's the simulated pause. It does not appear there are any photographs or recordings or any other data not already described therein. As for defendants' IRE 403 concerns, they are baseless. And it says right down here, thus any concern of prejudice in this regard is his own doing. Finally, defendant cites no basis for jury confusion. Consequently, Detective Gilbertson's disclosed testimony will not be excluded or limited at this time. Right, so that means at trial you're going to get to hear that. The state disclosed several forensic scientists from the ISP forensic lab to testify as experts in this case. The initial disclosure for each scientist described... This is new right here. We haven't gone over this yet. Hey, thanks, Kelly S. Let's see, where did that put us? I think that was the number, right? For at least me giving you the... Yeah, close. Hey, thanks, Don Welshman. And here I'll gift. Probably shouldn't. Didn't make the goal 2 nights in a row, but hey, what the hell. And there we go, right there. And then we got please and thank you. Oh, it's so weird. We actually, that's funny that you have that name, please and thank you. Because we have a one of our moderators named Jenny 8675309. She has a store called Please and Thank You Store in Los Angeles or California somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, but it might be Los Angeles. I don't know. It's hard to remember. John Doe was gifted one. John Doe number 53. Are you literally John Doe number 53? From a particular case, a name that... Anyways, letter G here is, the state disclosed several forensic scientists from the ISP Forensic Lab to testify as experts in this case. The initial disclosure for each scientist describes the subject matter the expert will discuss, including the particular evidence and testing performed. The disclosures also reference each scientist's specific lab report by Bates number. In each disclosure, the state includes the following caveat. This disclosure is provided as an aid. It does not encompass all findings, expressions, conclusions, or materials related to this expert's involvement in this case. It further does not in any way limit the scope of the expert testimony. And by the way, we don't have 900 people watching. There's probably 500. It's got one of those crazy little blips going on again. The initial, okay, now it says, limit the scope to the expert's testimony. Further, this expert may testify about findings, expressions, and or conclusions that she drew from the work of other experts who previously examined or handled the evidence questions. Defendant now moves to limit the scientist's testimony. On March 3rd, 2025, the state did so largely by expounding upon the general subject matter of the expert's respective work. They did not add any new opinions. So that one was denied again. This limitation is not necessary if the scientist testifies to something that is not disclosed in their disclosures or lab reports. Defendant can object at trial. There is no basis to prospectively limit their testimony now. All right, Gary Dawson. Dr. Gary Dawson was disclosed in rebuttal by the state to testify to the degree of impairment of the victims. Ah, man, see, here we go. Particularly Madison Mogen at the time of the... See, I told you guys that when you watch Madison Mogen at Grub Truck, she is very intoxicated. Kaylee may have consumed a similar amount, but they're different body sizes, right? So, but I've always said that she was really, she was barely able to stand. But it says particularly Madison Mogen at the time of the homicides. His expert report attached to his disclosure opines that Madison Mogen would have been markedly intoxicated from the effects of alcohol around the time of her death. Man, we've been saying this forever. She would not have the ability to mount a meaningful response to a sudden threat. I've said this 1,000 times. See, but the pro-burger people out there, they don't want to listen to this kind of stuff. They don't want to listen to it. They're going to, we've said it. If you have people that are drunk and they're already been sleeping or trying to go to sleep and they're really tired, they can't do a damn thing in a situation like this. Hey, welcome, Crystal Nicole. And look at that melody. Is it Tony? Or Tony? Or Tony? I don't know how to say it. Gifted a membership to Janelle H. Isn't that crazy? Wow. This has a ton of stuff in it. We might have to go through this whole damn thing. Let's see. Would have been markedly intoxicated from the effects of alcohol around the time of her death. She would not have had the ability to mount a meaningful response to a sudden threat to her person. Further states that while he has limited his review to Madison Mogen, I wonder why he said the same general principles apply to the other victims. Well, why didn't you do all the other victims? You know, I mean, I'm serious though. Like, why wouldn't you do all the other ones? Defendant seeks to strike his testimony on grounds that it is improper rebuttal. He contends that none of his experts have challenged her ability to fight back or otherwise contested her toxicology levels. The state responds that the opinion rebuts defense expert Brent Turvey's opinion that more than one assailant, there you go, perfect. More than one assailant was necessary to accomplish the crime in the time frame alleged. Specifically, the state argues that evidence Miss Mogen was unable to effectively fight back supports its position that one assailant could have completed the homicide in a short time frame. Boom. There you go. And so they're going to have the 2 to 4 minute window that Madison Mogen wouldn't have been able to fight back. And, you know, obviously Kaylee had been drinking too. Xana and Ethan were at a party. Everybody, you know, that's just what they do. You know, when you're at parties, you just drink and you just keep drinking. You know, that's what fraternity parties are all about, right? I mean, Mr. Mogen was unable to, Miss Mogen. Now, down here, rebuttal evidence is evidence which explains, repels, counteracts, or disproves evidence which has been introduced by or on behalf of the adverse party. I would be interested to see this cleaning up stuff they're talking about. Mr. Tarvey has opined in his report that 2 assailants were involved in the homicide. Okay, well, he was one of them, though, right? You'll admit that, right? Partially because he believes multiple weapons were used against Kaylee Gonzalez. Inferred in this opinion is that one person would not have had the time or ability to use multiple weapons in the same in the time frame alleged when faced with 2 victims. If Miss Mogen was intoxicated to the point of being unable to fight back, however, it would be impossible for one suspect to, incapacitate her. If Miss Mogen was intoxicated to the point of being unable to fight back, however, it would be possible for one suspect to incapacitate her and then use multiple weapons in attacking Miss Gonzalez. So do you guys think that they're saying that there really was 2 weapons here? Gonzalez, however, whether Dr. Dawson's opinion is relevant depends on how Mr. Turvey's testimony unfolds at trial. Consequently, his disclosed rebuttal opinion will not be excluded or limited at this time. I mean, that would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? If you had 2 different weapons. Alright, this one is Lawrence Mowry and Jeffrey Tanzula. Detective Lawrence Mowry, Agent Jeffrey Tanzula, and Detective Neil Uhrig are forensic detectives who were involved in the investigation of this case. I bet we're going to get something out of this. Detective Mowry of the Moscow Police Department is disclosed to testify in the state's case in chief as an expert in the field of digital forensic and his role in the investigation. Specifically, he may testify to any of the subjects identified in his report and may identify and testify to chain of custody extractions, electronic data files, and location records identified in the material made available to defendant initial discovery. There are approximately 50 individual devices, electronic accounts, and digital data listed in the disclosures about which he will testify, and he will opine that he found no connection in the material linking defendant to the devices and data he analyzed. Jeffrey Tanzola is a special agent with the FBI who extracted, processed, and archived the contents of 7 identified digital devices belonging to the defendant. He is disclosed to discuss in the state's case in chief the extraction, imagining, extraction, I think it's supposed to say imaging, examination, processing. Hey, thanks for gifting a membership, Daf M. And if you're out there, you want to do the, buy me a coffee, keep me awake here. There we go. Thanks, Daf M. So, Jeffrey Tanzola is a special agent with the FBI who extracted, processed, and archived the contents of 7 identified digital devices belonging to Brian Kohberger. He is disclosed to discuss in the state's case in chief the extraction, imaging, examination, processing, and verification, transportation, and chain of custody of those devices. The disclosure references and appends his report of examination regarding his work in this regard. Neil Uhrig. Are there 3 people up there? Yep, Neil Uhrig. Neil Uhrig is a forensic examiner and detective sergeant for the Post Falls Police Department who extracted, processed, and archived the contents of computers belonging to the victims and 2 other roommates of 1122 King Road. So let's see, process and archive the contents of computers belonging to the victims and 2 other roommates. So everybody in the house. His case in chief disclosures likewise state he will discuss extraction. Now it still says imagining. I think it's supposed to say imaging. Examination, processing, verification, transportation, and chain of custody as to those computers, including the expertise necessary to extract the data from the device. He will opine there were no connections found between the listed devices and the defendant. Huh? How could there be no connection to his... Hey, thanks, Flora. Yeah, well, it is interesting, isn't it? His initial disclosure references and appends his officer report. Defendant argues that each of the 3 experts' testimony must be limited to what has been disclosed. Why does it say this up here? I don't understand. So Neil Uhrig is a forensic examiner and detective who extracted and processed archived contents, computers belonging to victims. Belonging to the victims and 2 other roommates. His case-in-chief disclosures likewise state he will discuss extraction, imaging, examination, processing, verification, transportation, and chain of custody as to those computers, including the expertise necessary to extract the data from the devices. He will opine that there was no connection found between the listed device. Okay, so on those items, they couldn't find, like, none of the girls had ever communicated. Basically, what they're going to say is they're really going to push a stalking-like behavior here. So this is going to show how, Kohberger was in various places that they were over a period of time. He was going to their, liking comments on their TikTok or whatever, Instagram. And then, but these girls have nothing connected to him. They have never communicated with him. They haven't done anything. Yeah, I'm okay with it being taken down, yeah. I don't mind the house. The house should have been taken down. It's just, when does it end? After the appeals? I mean, it's stupid. You can scan the house with the Faro scans. You can make 3D models. I mean, they don't need to be there. There's no reason for it. They have video, doing walkthroughs. They probably have still frames, still images of everything. It's no big deal. I guess I read like a third grader. That's what somebody said. You read like a third grader. Punctuation serves a purpose, dude. See, maybe it's hard to read because it's small. It's way, really tiny for me on the screen. I'm like 3 feet away, but I think I'm reading it pretty good. I mean, maybe it's a little bit monotone, but, I'm trying to figure out what it says, not try to sound like, Ernest Borgnine. Yeah, just get rid of those guys. Yeah, hide those people like that. Gray, you read like a 3-year-old. God, Gray, my mom does it better. I mean, when I sit at home, she reads me Winnie the Pooh, you bastard. I'm sure you do still sit in your mom's room. And she reads you Winnie the Pooh. You're that type. Let's see. Where are we at here? Defendant argues that each of the... Maybe I should have written like this. Defendants argue that each of the 3 experts' testimony must be limited to what has been disclosed, i.e., the devices, data examined, and processed used. Yes, everybody. Here, let's fix it all up for you guys. Hold on a second. We got to get the... let's see. How do we do this? Yeah, here we go. I'll read it better for you. Neil Uhrig is a forensic examiner and detective sergeant for the Post Falls Police Department who extracted, processed, and archived the contents of computers belonging to the victims and 2 other roommates of 1122 King Road. His case-in-chief disclosure, likewise, state he will discuss extraction, imaging, examination, processing, verification, transportation, and chain of custody. As to those computers, including the expertise necessary to extract the data from the devices, he will opine that there was no connection found between the listed devices and the defendant. His initial disclosure references and appends his officer report regarding his work in this regard. Defendant argues that each of 3 experts' testimony must be limited to what has been disclosed, i.e., the devices, data examined, and processes used. Other than the disclosed opinion by Detective Mallory and Uhrig that no digital connection was found between defendant and the residents of 1122 King Road, defendant argues no specific testimony regarding what the devices and data depicted should be allowed. To this end, defendant notes that the state has not identified in the disclosures the specific portions of the identified devices and data, and these experts will testify to. All right, anyways, I think it's much more dramatic that way for sure. Gotta be honest with you. Yeah, that's how you do it, man. Now, wasn't that super chat worthy, you guys? Come on. In response, the state clarifies that it is not seeking to elicit opinions from the witnesses. Rather, it intends to elicit testimony about their qualifications necessary to perform the extractions and analysis of the identified devices and data. It further represents that the defendant has been provided with all the data analyzed. There is no basis to exclude or limit the detectives' disclosed testimony. It is clear they will be testifying to the fact of their investigation, not providing traditional expert opinions. There is no need, therefore, for the detectives to identify specifically what the devices and data depict. This is factual in nature. The defendant has been provided with all the material that the detectives reviewed. Hey, thanks, Janelle H. All right, we got, I think it ends here in a second, but Rob Hilly is the last one. Rob Hilly. Rob Hilly. Hey, thanks, M10. I think that's a weapon of some sort. And then RDW WDR. I always think of like WD-40 when I read that for some reason. Hey, thanks, Mindy. See, for the dramatic reading. I need to do that more, you know. It does sound good when you're reading a piece. Like sometimes there's newspaper articles from back in the day that are pieces written. They're not just like a report, you know. They're a long, and those ones sound pretty good with that. But anyways, here we go. We got Rob Hilly is a special agent with the FBI who reviewed surveillance footage from the hours before and after the homicides occurred, depicting... Oh man, this might be good. Let's see what's in there. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. From the hours before and after the homicides occurred, depicting what law enforcement believes, listen everybody, is suspect vehicle 1. Agent Hilly was disclosed to rebut opinions by defense expert Stephen Becker that it was not possible to ascertain from the surveillance videos whether a front license plate was missing from the vehicle. Agent Hilly's rebuttal references the full summary of video depicting suspect vehicle 1, which has been disclosed to the defendant. As a basis for his opinion, that suspect vehicle 1 did not have a front license plate. He then lists the specific camera locations. Plural. Did you hear that, you guys? Listen. And I made a video the other day. I said, hey, you guys, in the probable cause document, it states that they were able to determine that the suspect vehicle was missing a front license plate when it drove by the A&W, and then again at 401 when it drives by the Ridge Road address, and you have that really clear photograph. And so I was saying, look, they've got it on camera more than once. And you notice how, like, a lot of stuff that I talk about sometimes sort of comes to fruition? I'm not really sure if you guys have noticed that, but it just is what it is. Hey, good evening, Candalee Woodward Stone. Man, I haven't seen you in a million years. Candalee Woodward Stone, 43 months. Very cool, very cool. So there we go, which has been... so Agent Hilly's rebuttal referenced the full summary video. So he's going to talk about, his rebuttal also states he will provide testimony about the significance of the missing front plate. So he's going to talk about how in Pennsylvania they don't require, nor, most people don't even have them, the front license plate in Pennsylvania. But Washington and Idaho both require front and back license plate. Man, that's just amazing. So suspect vehicle 1 did not have a front plate. He then lists the specific camera locations and timestamps he contends show a clear view of a missing front plate. Boom. Defendant contends that since Agent Hilly has not offered an opinion as to any videos other than those specific clips referenced, his testimony must be limited to those identified clips. However, Agent Hilly's disclosed opinion is not restricted to the identified clips. It expressly based on the full summary of video of suspect vehicle 1, with the identified clips being the most clear. Right, and that's the Ridge Road. I said that. Man, that's crazy. In one of my videos. However, Agent Hilly's disclosed opinion is not restricted to the identified clips. It expressly based on the full summary of video of suspect vehicle 1, with the identified clips being the most clear. Right, so Ridge Road, etc. Thus, the court will not limit his testimony in this regard. Poor pro-burgers. Yeah. Well, thanks, M10. It seems like a lot of people don't really notice or realize that, like the way I analyze these cases, I figure shit out way before it even comes out, Let's see. And not just this case, Lori and Chad Daybell had that sucker nailed from the beginning, like the first week we covered it. Same, nothing's changed. All right, there's another document. 2 more large ones. How long what time is this? Yeah, we can go through some more here. You think so? People say I sound like Norm Macdonald. I don't think I sound like him at all. He's more, my nose is plugged today, so maybe I sound more like him, but I don't think so. All right, here we go. This one's the autism spectrum one. All right. Let's have ChatGPT do a quick... By the way, isn't this creepy as hell? Look at this guy. That's my balaclava man. Look at it. Yeah, that's scary looking. All right. Yeah, I've had other people. I don't sound like Norm Macdonald. I can tell. I think it's people that have shitty ears. Let's see. Chat. More deep research unlocked. Plus, users now get access to more deep. What? What are you offering me? Try it now, I guess. All right. Let's see. Summarize this document, keeping in mind it's regarding Brian Kohberger. Let's see. Summarize.
Sure. Please upload or paste the document you'd like me to summarize regarding Brian Kohberger. Once I have it, I'll create a Absolutely, bro. Just upload the document or paste the text here, and I'll hit you back with a chill, straight-to-the-point summary in full bro mode. Let's go.
Here we go. We get to hear bro mode. Hey, thanks, EB Clownin'.
Alright, bro. Here's the scoop on the court dock in full bro mode. So what's the sitch? Brian Kohberger's legal squad tried to dodge the death penalty by saying he's got autism spectrum disorder ASD, level 1, basically. He's neurodivergent but still pretty sharp upstairs. Dude has a 119 IQ and a killer academic record, no pun intended. The game plan? His defense argued ASD should count like an intellectual disability, like in Atkins versus Virginia, where people with serious mental limitations can't be executed. They said he's less morally responsible and wouldn't benefit from deterrence, and juries might unfairly judge his lack of emotion and awkward behavior. The state? Nah, bro, the state clapped back saying ASD not equal to intellectual disability. Kohberger's brain might work differently, but he's still got top-tier smarts and knows what's up. Also, no nationwide legal consensus exists to say dudes with ASD should get a pass on the death penalty. The judge's final word? Yeah, he wasn't buying it. Judge said, ASD doesn't legally qualify like intellectual disability does. Kohberger is high-functioning, not impaired enough to escape death row. No mass agreement out there, laws, court decisions backing this move. Media bias? That's what voir dire and good lawyers are for, not an automatic get-out-of-death penalty card. Result? Motion denied. Death penalty still on the table. Let me know if you want this translated into normie language, or if you want to break down specific parts of the case.
Translated to normie language. Hey, thanks, Vicky White. Bro mode. And Vic Star. Yeah, so let's see if there's any, kind of just skim through this. During the course of this case, the defense team retained Dr. Rachel Orr, a clinical neuropsychologist, to conduct a comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation of defendant and issue a report. Dr. Orr interviewed defendant's immediate family members, and other relevant adults from... How come he's never been identified as being autistic until now? She gathered information on defendant history, made behavioral observations, and administered cognitive tests. Based on the evaluation, Dr. Orr diagnosed defendant with autism spectrum disorder level 1. That's the highest functioning, by the way, without accompanying intellectual or language impairment. According to Dr. Orr, it's a complex, heterogeneous neurodevelopment disorder rooted in brain differences and characterized by social and behavioral features. Let's see. The severity of ASD is based on 2 criteria. There are 3 levels of severity which correlate to... Let's just... You know what? I'm going to have it break it down further over here. Can you give me a let's see, the most in-depth breakdown of each segment in normie. You guys want to put a 1 if you want me to keep doing bro mode, or you want normal. 1 for bro mode, 2 normal. Let's see what we get. Now we see howdy here. Well, let's see. There's 1, 2. Are you guys okay though? If we do bro mode? I think it's a little easier to get because it's just more entertaining. I wasn't asking you, Hunter Johnson. I think you're probably a troll. There's even somebody that came in with your same name and everything earlier.
Oh, absolutely, bro. Let's take a deep dive section by section. No holding back. This is the full flex breakdown of the court's ruling on Brian Kohberger's motion to strike the death penalty due to autism spectrum disorder ASD. Introduction. What's up here? Kohberger's defense dropped a motion trying to scrap the death penalty because he was diagnosed with ASD level 1, no intellectual language impairment. They're saying, ASD is basically like an intellectual disability. Even if it's not categorically the same, the media's obsession with his diagnosis would make a fair sentencing impossible. The state's clapback. ASD isn't equivalent to intellectual disability under law. No legal precedent or national consensus backs this. Media noise doesn't automatically wreck trial fairness. Court's stance, took arguments in April 2025, thought it over, said nah. Second standard. Legal Rules 101, anytime someone argues something is unconstitutional, like saying the death penalty violates their rights, that's a legal question. Court applies case law, specifically from the Idaho Supreme Court in SCOTUS. Third facts. Dr. Rachel Orr, neuropsychologist for the defense, diagnosed Kohberger after an intense evaluation, interviews with Brian, his fam, old teachers, behavioral observations and neurotesting. Diagnosis ASD, level 1, meaning he needs support but is high functioning. No intellectual or language impairment. Key traits Dr. Orr observed: social awkwardness, poor reciprocity.
It's probably hard to sound bro mode on something so technical, so it's not really throwing it in that much.
Struggles with reading social cues. Intense focus on narrow interests. Speech quirks, over-formal, repetitive phrasing, like saying objectively speaking. Physically, odd posture, intense eye contact, flat affect, and some repetitive movements. Academic record: dude's a straight-A student with a 4 in grad school, working on a PhD in criminal justice at arrest time. IQ, 119, top 10%. Strong in verbal reasoning, memory, and reading. Weak in executive function, planning, impulse control. Dr. Eileen Ryan backed up the diagnosis. Said he understands everything about his trial and isn't delusional. No signs of being out of touch. Fourth analysis. A. Categorical exemption for ASD. They tried to say people with ASD shouldn't be executed, period. SCOTUS only allows this for intellectually disabled Atkins versus Virginia juveniles, Roper versus Simmons people, incompetent to be executed, Ford v. Wainwright. ASD is not in that list. 1. Is ASD like an intellectual disability? Defense. ASD equal to functional equivalent. Court, not even close. Intellectual disability equal to low IQ plus poor life skills. ASD equal to social behavioral quirks. Intelligence can be normal or high. Kohberger, way above average IQ, totally understands what's going on. They said even if ASD causes some social issues like awkwardness or flat affect, that doesn't hit the level of impairment required by Atkins. But
you've got nice birthing hips.
Bottom line, no intellectual disability, no death penalty shield. Other disorders like FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum, and severe mental illness don't get exemptions either. Courts across the country agree. 2. National consensus. Defense. Society's more aware of ASD now. Some states like Ohio, Kentucky have laws against executing the severely mentally ill. Court, that's cool and all, but only 2 states did that. Not enough for a national consensus. Those laws don't even cover ASD. No wave of court rulings or state laws supporting ASD exemption. So no equivalent legal standard. No mass public shift. Denied. B. Case-specific arguments. Media, fairness, etc. Defense is alternative. Okay, even if no categorical ban, let's not apply the death penalty in this case. Why? Media has cooked up a picture of him as creepy and robotic due to ASD. That could bias the jury. He might not look remorseful, just because of how his ASD presents. Court's take. Media bias isn't enough to cancel death penalty.
Well, he's not remorseful because he's not remorseful. I mean, people that do what he's doing, they never have remorse. He's a psycho.
Dire jury selection is where you weed out biased jurors. Experts can testify to educate jurors about ASD. No evidence, jurors can't be fair. Kohberger's flat affect? Sure, it might seem cold, but that's not enough to show he can't help in his own defense, or the jurors will 100% misread him. Fifth order. Verdict. ASD is not a shield from the death penalty. Kohberger stays eligible for capital punishment. Signed, sealed, delivered by the judge. If you want a visual chart, summary table of the arguments, ruling logic, or a compare versus Atkins grid, I got you. Just say the word, bro.
Hey, come on, you guys. For the ones who didn't want bro mode, that was a tame bro mode, right? I mean, that was really... Let's see. All right, so there's another one here. One more document. It's longer. Oh yeah, so this is the longer one here.
Alright bro, here's the deep breakdown of that second court doc in straight up clear terms, keeping it focused on Brian Kohberger and the court's rulings about text messages and the 911 call. What this is about. This doc is a court order ruling on what evidence can be shown to the jury during Kohberger's trial, specifically texts and phone calls between the surviving roommates DM and BF, their convo details about seeing a masked man the night of the murders, the full 911 call that was made hours after the attack. The state prosecution wants all of this in the trial. The defense is like, nah, arguing a lot of it is hearsay or too emotional and prejudicial. The judge had to step in and decide what flies, key facts. Around 4 a.m., DM saw a dude in a ski mask in the house. She immediately started texting and calling BF, another surviving roommate. They were scared and confused. Lots of messages like WTF, I'm freaked out, and he had something over his head and mouth. Despite this, they didn't call 911 until nearly 8 hours later, 11:56 a.m. The 911 call was chaotic, had multiple people on the line, and included crying and heavy breathing. Legal terms 101 quick guide. Hearsay, stuff someone said outside of court, can't usually be used to prove a point, unless it fits an exception. Present sense impression. If someone describes something right after it happens, it's usually allowed.
So like I mentioned to you guys the other day, they're not allowing some of the stuff on the 911 call. For example, they're not allowing the portion where I guess it's Hunter's girlfriend said something to the effect of, oh yeah, and they saw some guy. Remember how Dylan wanted to say that? And then she goes, oh yeah, and they saw a guy in there. That part can't be in there because she didn't see it. All right, and it sucks too because the operator didn't let Dylan, probably rightfully so, because she was trying to help an, quote, unconscious person. But she didn't let Dylan say what she wanted to say. She was like, well, let me just tell you what happened, and she was going to go through it. And then that all would have been uttered on that 911 call, and it would have been part of the case. And there would probably have been way more details and stuff that would have been even more accurate than her being interviewed later, because that was right then, when she woke up. It was in her mind.
Excited utterance. If someone says something while totally freaked out, it's also usually allowed. Texts and calls between DM and BF allowed. Their texts during the 4:22-4:26 a.m. window are admissible. They were reacting in real time and clearly panicked. Stuff like he had a ski mask, I'm freaking out, and run qualify as present sense impressions or excited utterances. Calls and non-assertive messages like, are you up? Aren't hearsay, so those go in too. Timeline stuff. DM's text later in the morning, 10 to 11 a.m., are allowed to establish the timeline of events, not for what they say. 911 call, mostly allowed. BF and others on the line were clearly distressed. Their statements like something happened in our house are real-time reactions and are coming in. The court says things like crying, breathing, and panic aren't hearsay and help show how intense the moment was. Blocked, redacted. 3 specific parts are not allowed. A girl said a roommate was passed out and drunk, but she didn't see that herself. She also said someone saw a man in the house last night. Hearsay and too old from 8 hours earlier. DM tried to start explaining what happened at 4 a.m. Again, too delayed and shows reflective thought, not raw reaction. 911 transcript. The judge will let the...
Wait, hold on. So that's weird because this one right here is related to this one. So DM, this is going to be removed. Dylan Mortensen tried to start explaining what happened at 4 a.m. Again, too delayed and shows reflective thought, not raw reaction. I don't know, man. I don't know. That seems... Yeah, I guess. If just... Yeah, the funny thing is... Right, so even if she had said, what the judge is saying is, even if she said on the call, yeah, there was this guy, he had a balaclava on, he had bushy eyebrows, you wouldn't be able to put that in because she had time to sit around and think about it. Start explaining what happened at 4 a.m. Again, too delayed and shows reflective thought.
The jury read the transcript while they listen to the audio. but
I guess they can read the transcript, but I don't know if they're redacting that part, or is that just redacted on the audio portion?
only as a visual aid. It won't count as actual evidence. They'll get instructions not to treat it like gospel if the audio sounds different. Final court call, text messages, mostly allowed, especially in that early AM panic window. 911 call allowed, except for the 3 statements that lacked personal knowledge or were too delayed. Transcript allowed with the right instructions, but not as official evidence.
I mean, I don't know why the Dylan Mortensen one's confusing that they're not going to allow that. Because what's the difference between that and her being interviewed later, which is part of the case, right? I don't know. That's just...
If you want
Maybe it's not part of the case. She's going to have to go to trial and testify to that.
me to format this into a graphic style summary or timeline board for better visuals,
That's pretty interesting. That's the autism one. Okay, let's see. Okay, they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. And are you with the patient? Hi, this is Dylan. Okay, I need someone. Can I just tell you what happened pretty much? See right there. What is going on currently, the operator said. I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m., she wanted to say it. She really wanted to start getting this information out. Even up here where it says, one of the roommates who passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not walking. And then you could hear Dylan in the background saying something that made her then go, oh yeah, and they saw a man in their house last night. We've heard it. The state seeks to admit Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk phone records from November 13th, 2022, including call records and text messages, as well as elicit testimony by Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk regarding their communications with each other on November 13th, 2022, that they testified to before the grand jury. The state also seeks to admit the 911 call and the official transcript thereof. The state argues these records and communications are not hearsay, or they are exempted from hearsay as exited. Somebody's not typing right here. That's supposed to be exempted from hearsay and then excited. They spelled it exited utterances. Or present sense impressions. Defendant objects, arguing that apart from Hunter's statement to 911 that Xana was not breathing, the exemptions did not apply to the hearsay statement. The court finds the bulk of the statements are likely admissible, with 3 exceptions of statements made during the 911 call. Let's see. I guess we can just go down to like his female. One roommate's passed out. The state argues this statement is a present sense impression because the female speaker is described. I didn't agree with that even when they said that. Her statement's hearsay, that one, because that's just a friend there that says, oh yeah, they told me, well, that doesn't count, right? The only individual who saw Xana unresponsive were Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, and Hunter Johnson. So those are the 3 that went upstairs on the call when she said, hey, I needed to go look. So she goes, we got to do it. So it was Bethany, Hunter, and Dylan. That's crazy. See, that's more data we didn't know. The only individuals who saw Xana unresponsive were Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, and Hunter. Thus, defendant contends the exception does not apply because the female speaker never saw Xana unresponsive and thus lacks first-hand knowledge of the information contained in the statement. Laura said, I now know the importance of listening to truthful sources only when learning about other cases. So here I am. Oh, well, cool. Well, there you go. Well, thanks, Laura. Yeah. Let's see. The inquiry here turns on whether the event the female speaker is describing or explaining is that Xana is unresponsive and defendant contends, or whether it is more, or as the defendant contends, or whether it is more generally the scene unfolding at the house, i.e., that her friend saw Xana unresponsive. The female speaker did not personally perceive the former, but she did personally perceive the latter. When the words themselves are considered, it is clear the event being described is that Xana is unresponsive, not that the speaker's friends saw Xana unresponsive. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So they never actually saw, they just were like, Xana, Xana, and she wasn't responding. In other words, she is relaying to 911 what her friends observed and relayed to her. Her statement is therefore outside the presence impression, and thus the exception at, yes, okay, that's pretty great. Caller reporting that there is a cop. Let's see. So this is like a different ruling at some other point called Bemis 1373 911. Caller reported that there's a cop beating the crap out of this guy now. Was not present sense impression because he was reporting what others in his house were seeing and describing to him. Thus, the statement is not admissible under that exception. Female, oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Well, the statement argues this statement is both present sense impression and an excited utterance because it is in response to finding Xana unresponsive. Defendant responds that the statement references an event Dill Mortensen saw 8 hours prior to the 911 call and therefore is not contemporaneous. Defendant also points out that the female speaker does not have personal knowledge and is simply repeating what she was told by others. Right. And that is exactly what she's doing. The court agrees that the present sense impression exception does not apply to the statement because the speaker is recounting what someone else perceived. Additionally, there is no contemporaneity. God, man, I've never used that word. Contemporaneity, I don't know, since she is describing an event that occurred hours earlier. The excited utterance exception does not apply either. Instructive here is State versus Fox, where Idaho Supreme Court considered whether the excited utterance exception applied to a 911 call made by a man after he found a woman screaming for help for her friend, whom she said had just been pistol whipped by a man who fled the scene. The 911 caller had not seen what happened, but relayed to dispatch what the victim told him about the incident. The court held that the district court erred by admitting the 911 caller's statement to dispatch as yeah, I mean, that's interesting, right? Because if the defense is claiming something totally different, I didn't do that, and then you allow this person who was merely told the story to put it out on 911 call and then you use it, well, she doesn't have, and use her as a witness, well, she didn't see anything. The court held that the district court erred by admitting the 911 caller's statement to dispatch as excited utterance because the caller's voice was calm and he had not experienced a startling event or condition. Here, likewise, the audio of the 911 call does not indicate that the speaker's normal reflective thought process were rendered inoperative. Her voice sounds calm relative to Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen's, Although a slight nervousness can be detected in her voice, she is not audibly crying or breathing heavily. And I mean, who is the judge making these determinations? I mean, it's sort of interesting, right? In fact, the speaker took over speaking to dispatch because she was more composed than Bethany Funk, who initiated the call. Further, the speaker did not personally see Xana unresponsive, nor did she see the man allegedly in the house. She is simply repeating what others told her. So the statement does not provide insight into her own thought process. Consequently, the statement must be redacted. Yeah, I actually agree with it. It kind of sucks, but because there's now, I don't even if Dylan had brought that up, I guess apparently that wouldn't have been allowed. So here's the Dylan Mortensen says, after the female speaker cedes the phone to Dylan Mortensen identifies herself and asks if she can tell dispatch what happened. Dispatch responds by asking what is going on and if someone is passed out. This exchange will not be offered for the truth of the matter asserted and therefore is not hearsay. However, Dylan Mortensen then states, I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m., the state argues this statement is present sense impression and or excited utterance because Dylan Mortensen is trying to explain to the dispatcher what she saw while under the current excitement of realizing that her roommate is not waking up and something could be wrong in the house. Defendant disagrees, noting the event Dylan Mortensen begins to describe what occurred 8 hours prior. He further argues it is not an excited utterance because she and Bethany Funk had several hours to reflect on what she had seen and experienced. Right. But I mean, what's the difference between that and an officer interviewing her later? It's I think, even more relevant. That's her statement should be able to be put in there. She doesn't say anything, though. I mean, she never gets anything out of her mouth that's really relevant. She does mention the 4 o'clock thing, which I think is that would be helpful because now you're in the time frame. Defendant is correct that the statement does not qualify as a present sense impression. So those were deemed inadmissible. Statement regarding Xana. Dispatch then instructs Dylan Mortensen to find out if someone is passed out. Dylan Mortensen appears to make statements to bystanders that they have to go check. Right. If Xana is passed out, this is not offered by the state for the truth of the matter and therefore not hearsay. Dylan Mortensen then states that Xana is not waking up. Now, is she saying that because Hunter's telling her that? Not waking up. Hunter is heard stating Xana in the background. These are squarely present sense impressions because they are describing what the speakers are seeing. Dylan Mortensen then responds to dispatch inquiring about Xana's age, again not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, before Hunter takes the phone and confirms that Xana is not breathing. This is also present sense impression and also likely falls within IRE 803. Around the time Hunter confirmed to dispatch that Xana was not breathing, law enforcement had arrived on the scene. Hunter can be heard telling Dylan Mortensen, I need you to talk to them. I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them. I think that's what we said, he said. That's what I said, he said. Or something like that. Anyways, the court finds this admissible as either a present sense impression or excited utterance. Hunter has discovered Xana's body moments before. He is operating under the stress of the discovery and attempting to answer dispatch questions. His statement, I think at trial everyone will learn why Dylan and Bethany thought that they were just passed out. He is operating under the stress of his discovery and attempting to answer dispatch questions. His statements described his inability to speak to law enforcement at the moment and therefore are admissible. At that point, Dylan Mortensen took the phone again, and dispatch instructed her to get a defibrillator. And if one was available, Dylan Mortensen asked dispatch to repeat the question and stated, "There's police here right now." After dispatch repeated the question, Dylan Mortensen indicated they did not have a defibrillator and asked the responding officer if he had one. The officer said he had one, and which the dispatch indicated she was going to let the officer take over and ended the call. To the extent the state seeks to admit the statements by Dylan Mortensen for their truth, they qualify as present sense impressions, as Dylan Mortensen is explaining. So I guess what it is like in the 911 call, it's like the only things that it really are a jury's allowed to hear are present, the thing that's happening right now, like talking about what Xana was looking like and those kind of things, but talking about things that you remember from earlier in the evening. I kind of see what they're saying. Like you could have time to think about it and come up with some, it's just the way they sort of protect themselves, like from an issue. It doesn't sound like an excited, I don't know. I mean, Dylan seems sort of like that, but it was 8 hours later, right? And I guess that makes it so, like the defense wouldn't want that in there because they'll say, well, or the Kohbergers wouldn't want that in there either because they think that she did something and look, she had time to think and that's, they're going to feed off of that one part right there. They're going to think that this helps, it proves that Dylan was planning something merely because the judge is saying that it's something that you could have thought about and came up with instead of being an excited utterance. Hey, thanks, M10. Apart from the statements, the state also moves for admission of audible crying, breathing, and heaving made by the 911 callers. Defendant does not address the argument, and the court finds it well placed. While assertive conduct can qualify as hearsay, non-assertive conduct does not. There is no indication in the 911 call that the speakers are intending to make an assertion through their crying and heavy breathing. It's clearly an involuntary emotional response to the circumstances, except the Kohbergers think that Dylan Mortensen was fake crying, or whoever's doing that heavy breathing. Some people think that's Hunter. It is relevant to show the stress and emotional impact the girls are under, which put calls into context, thus is admissible. A transcript of the 911 call will be allowed as a demonstrative aid. So we've already gone over all this stuff before, I think. Now these are the text messages. I think the part that's interesting right here is Bethany Funk calls Dylan Mortensen for 23 seconds at 4:19. Kohberger left the house maybe a minute to 2 minutes before that. And then, interestingly, Dylan Mortensen calls Xana. That's at 4:20. Then she calls Kaylee at 4:20 and 20 seconds. And then Dylan Mortensen calls Bethany Funk at 4:20 and 28 seconds. And then in the middle of that phone call, that's when Kohberger drives away. I mean, isn't that amazing? Like he was there for a while. He drove away at 4:20 and 47 seconds. So that means halfway through this call, or almost the entire call, actually about 29 seconds of this 41-second phone call, that's when he drove away. Then at 4:21 a.m., Bethany Funk calls Xana. And right now, he is still like just turning onto Taylor Avenue. And then 42150, he's likely on Malanta Drive, but kind of way back behind back there. Anyways, so that's about the only part that's mildly interesting there. But there you go. Crazy. Some nutty new information tonight. Look at this right here. Watch this. So if you missed it earlier, we can do it again. The detectives did some timing. They wanted to see how quickly these murders could have taken place, and they said 2 to 4 minutes depending on how fast he was moving. So 4 would be if he was moving kind of slow, like molasses. And by the way, this one right here, watch this. So let's just do it again. Bing. Right there, right? So look at the clock on the left. That's the one that matters. The one over here. Not the one down there, not this one. This one over here. So he goes upstairs. And this part here, I just, this is irrelevant time. He didn't go into that room. He could have, though. Maybe he was looking around. So he goes in there and he goes over here. Now he's in there. Boom. This is Madison Mogan's room and Kaylee Gonzalez. Madison Mogan is extremely intoxicated. She is probably dead right now. Right? Then all of a sudden, you've got, maybe let's just say right now. And then now there's a fight with him and Kaylee. He's attacking, just brutally attacking over and over and over and over and over and over. Just it's ridiculous, right? And so, that's probably over by now, right? I mean, because they're just kind of being shocked and awake, and then boom, they're both there. It's actually, I've updated the positioning and stuff. Later models. This was an early video. Then goes down the stairs. Oh, wow. And then he was going over it. But, we know from tonight's show that he attacked Ethan and Xana at the same time in that room. Okay? So I'm just allotting all of this time here to Ethan and Xana's homicide. So look how long this is. He goes in there and he's attacking. Probably attacked. If you think he was using some of that, who was the killer that we just did the other day? He attacked the guy first to get him out of the way. So I think that's definitely, something he could have just done. And then after that, he's going after Xana. The one on the left. Over here, as I said. Right, so that's what we're looking at. And the other one, I just edited out all the other waiting that I had in my 7-minute video. So forget the one on the right. It's the one on the left that matters. Right, so there he is. He's killed both Xana and Ethan. And goes out this direction. There's Dylan Mortensen on the left there. Stairs go upstairs, and then here's the kitchen. Did you see that right there, Zozo? That was a pretty good animation of it. And that was only 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Right? And so that's why even when we play the 7-minute one, we'd say, man, that still seems like way too long. No, it wasn't. That wasn't real. Yeah. It's garbage. Let's see. Keep in mind, Kaylee was found. What do you mean? What do you mean after the fact? She was found that way because that's how she was killed, and that's where she ended up. There wasn't somebody that posed her there, Susan. I know you want your pro-burger people. You're probably one of those people that think somebody went in there and posed Kaylee in the corner, and it wasn't. It wasn't pro-burger. It wasn't Kohberger. Come on, you guys. Let's get real. Right. So anyways, there you go. That's it. And I have him leaving the house at about 4:17, right? Because that's about that time. I think it's probably like between 4:17 and 4:18. He's leaving the house. Okay. And look at, we right now is 4 minutes. I stopped it. I mean, we were talking and all that stuff. So you can add all that time and it's still less than 4 minutes. Yeah, he didn't see Dylan Mortensen. She thinks he did because she saw an eyebrow. Right. Well, anyways, you guys, I think that's going to do it for me tonight. You guys have any final thoughts or anything? How can anyone know what? Man, type a full sentence in, man. Let's see. They referring to debit purchase. Yeah, I mean, don't you think it's obvious that he didn't see Dylan Mortensen or he would have killed her? And, well, not if they knew each other and she was in on it, you know, and... Yeah, you know where they're always going. That's where the pro-burgers are always trying to sneak in little, like, comment to get you to think, wow, you're right, man. Yep, those brows can kill. He could have been exhausted and just wanted out. Yeah. But he probably didn't see her either. I mean, he was outside for 3 or 4 minutes. How about this, you guys? Somebody brought up a great point the other day in one of the comments. Isn't this more logical? Kohberger did not see Dylan Mortensen. And you know why? Because he wouldn't have spent the 3 minutes he did outside cleaning his car if he did see her, because he would assume that she would have walked out of her room, saw the dead people, and started calling 911. He went out there and he spent 3 minutes, doing blood spatter mitigation, and then he drove away. Then he left at a high rate of speed. So come on, you guys. Just use common sense right there. That makes sense. Don't go, well, I mean, there isn't a well, I mean. That makes sense. That had he seen her, he wouldn't have strolled out and spent that time at his car doing the blood spatter mitigation. He would have just had to risk it and get the hell out of there. Right? And that's just the reality. So think about that. But Gray, she may have imagined his eyebrows because she had drawings of eyebrows. Yeah, those guys always say that. Because she has pictures on the walls with eyebrows. Yeah, maybe she saw his bushy eyebrows and went in her room and saw this really big eyebrow, and that's why later on she starts saying, I don't know what I saw. I didn't see anything. I saw a brow. I saw a big eyebrow. It's actually her own words are funny in that thing. It's like it's actually funny. Yeah, he left the night sheath. You need to get out of there. But why didn't you just take off really quick? I just explained it to you, Dennis. I don't know if you were listening, but she only saw one eyebrow, so she must have seen a profile. Yeah, because that's exactly how it would be. He's coming out of... Here, watch. Okay, right here. This is when he's leaving. So she saw his left eyebrow. See? Because he would actually be turning right here, not... have him go into there, right? But he would be turning right. And she's probably standing right there, and she would see his left eyebrow, and he turns right. And eventually, I'll show you when it gets down there. So right to the right is Dylan Mortensen's room. So after coming out of the living room, which is right in front of us, he would have turned right and went this way, like that. Yeah, it was Xana's room. Who said it wasn't? Yeah, the blood that's outside is absolutely coming out of Xana's bedroom. There's no doubt about it. Right, who said it wasn't? Why is the blood leaking down the side of the house if they were in bed? Because it was in the room. Here, watch. Watch this. You still there, Snakebite? Try to learn something, all right? I don't want you to, I need you to watch this so that you don't keep spreading, you know. So right here, look, watch. See this? Watch, just watch this and you'll know it right now. Snakebite, try to pay attention. You got it. So you watch right here. See how there's a bed right there? That's in Xana's room right there. Now watch this. Keep watching Xana's room as I rotate around. And here's the back side of the room, and the blood was coming out right down here. Right there, actually. You got it? Ah, forget it. Which ninja school? Okay. You are, though, Snakebite, because you said, which ninja school did Brian attend to obtain his lightning speed techniques? It's not lightning speed. It's, you know, they tested it out. Yeah, forget it. You won't understand it, Snakebite. You'll be willfully ignorant. All right. So that's going to do it, you guys. So thank you to K-Me, and look at that, Zozo, 5 years and 2 months. All right, Jim Lawn, and then we have Stephanie Sprague, Von Dazen. Yes, Stephanie, Stephanie Sprague became a member, then Stephanie Sprague gifted a membership, then Tracy Laster, Kristen Langley, then Carrie Little, Naomi Rollins gifted one, True Crime Lullabies gifted one, Toka Charlie gifted one, then Flora Paste, maybe, Allie Cake, Jeannie Guyagoi, 24 months, thank you, 2 years. Jeannie Guyagoi gifted one, then Hannah Whitaker, and then Lynette Eades, Chosen, gifted, CR gifted 5, then Truth Sleuth 60 months, 5 years, Jeannie Guyagoi, Von Dazen, Suzanne Flynn, Vic Star, CR, started a wave, then we had Allie Cake, Hannah Whitaker, CR, then CR did a cat eye donation. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your generosity. I haven't really been in a great mood, to be honest with you guys, like for quite a while, you know. It's been, I don't know, over a month. I mean, I'm not always in a good mood anyways, but you know, particularly the last month or so with all the weird stuff going on. You know, my mom's got Alzheimer's starting to really kick in. And my dad is, you know, back in the hospital. He might be coming home in a couple days. He's doing a lot better today. He's just really got to keep taking his medicine. You know, his mind wasn't working right, and he kept thinking they're giving the wrong ones, and he stopped taking some, and then it just sucked. I never noted anything about Dylan could have hid behind a ledge too. I never said that. When was the knife purchased in comparison to the date the police went back to check the phones? I don't know. The knife was in March. I think that's a totally different thing. Yeah. Anyways, so we got CR, then Allie Cake, and Lainey Carter, and CR gifted 5 again. So, man, thanks, CR. It made a big difference tonight. Then we had RDWWR, then Kelly S, Don Welshman, then I gifted 5, then Crystal Nicole, new member, Melanie Tone, I think it's Tone or Tone, gifted 1, and Daft M gifted 1, and then Flora Paste. Then we have Janelle H, M10, RDWWR, Mindy, Candalee Woodward Stone, 43 months, EB Clownin, Vicky White, Vic Star, Laura, and M10. Then we had the coffees we had were It's like Daff M did one of those. And then Ted Bundy did a couple. And then we had Caitlin, Melinda, Lisa Valenzuela, Naomi, and Susie Clue. So there you go. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Yeah, I did. I went over that whole thing, Zozo. I don't know if you missed that whole segment. I said that this information shows that it looks like Brian Kohberger, they're checking the girls' phones, and they were checking, I'm not sure why you're saying you don't think. I went over that whole thing for literally like 30 minutes. They were checking the ping locations for Dylan Mortensen's phone and Xana's phones. And that's sort of interesting because it makes you wonder if they think that Xana and Dylan were the targets, maybe. Or not Dylan, Xana and Madison were the targets. So they're tracking that, and they're trying to link it up to where Kohberger was at the time. Oh, yeah, because that's different. The knife purchase was using... That's a whole different thing. The June is to track his phone because that's when he was there. Remember how he went to... Kohberger moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman like in June. Remember that? And so it doesn't matter what they're just tracking his phone and where it was located compared... I think they're trying to compare it to Madison and Xana's phone. The knife sheath... The knife purchase was just on... he might have even been at home at the time because he purchased it and it was delivered to his own house. He wasn't in Pullman until, I think, like right around then, June of 2022. Yeah, so he was at home in Pennsylvania when he ordered the knife. Does that make sense? There's no security guard involved in anything, DE. You're watching a bunch of wackadoodles, unfortunately. That makes sense? Right. They're not really... The knife and the phone movements aren't related. They're using the Amazon expert to discuss that. But I think the phone stuff, they're trying to look for... I think that they're really... There's a stalking element. There was two things that we talked about tonight. I don't remember the other one, but there was two things that directly pointed to like them trying to... I think it was the purchases. Remember that? So it was the purchases of Dylan and Xana, I believe, like things that they bought. And it's like, okay, are you going to time that up with like Kohberger showing up to the same place and buying something? And then, making it look like he's... I mean, that's going to be crazy. Come on, Gray, that Amazon K-Bar knife purchase means nothing. What are you talking about? It means nothing. Yeah, who doesn't buy a K-Bar? Zozo bought a K-Bar knife just recently. She said she was going to use it on me. Oh, jeez. He tried to erase his purchase from... Yeah, he did. Yeah. He tried to make it seem like... he's just... He didn't want... It's kind of an odd thing, though, because why wouldn't he... So the record's on there and he bought it in January, and then he wants that deleted, and then he buys another one just in case they say, hey, yeah, I got one, but I just bought it. I mean, that just sounds ludicrous. It almost seems to me like he wanted to get rid of that purchase so he could buy another one to commit another homicide with. Because I think there's a possibility that he left that K-Bar knife sheath as a calling card, and then he wanted to delete the other purchase so he doesn't have multiple purchases of K-Bar knife sheaths over the years. I don't understand the strategy of getting rid of a purchase, and then buying another one. Why would you do that? Wouldn't you just not have one and say, I've never bought a K-Bar knife sheath or a K-Bar knife? You get what I'm saying? Just listen for a second. Why wouldn't he just delete the purchase? And maybe he tried to remove it and couldn't, so then thought, oh shit, I better buy another one so that I have one and the sheath, and hey, look, I never, maybe something like that. Anyways, all right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys being here, and I appreciate the support for the channel. Got back onto in a groove, or not a groove, but a one night special for tonight, I guess. I might try to make a video on the points tomorrow. Would you guys watch that one? It's going to be, I'll probably throw in some of the shortened time frame discussion. As well. It's one thing to buy it, but when you try to erase it, well, it is suspicious. But so he tried to erase it, but then he went and tried to maybe buy another one. So I don't understand that part. Wouldn't he just want to erase it and say, I've never purchased a K-bar knife? Yeah, well, that's probably what happened. So the answer is he probably tried to delete the order, realized he couldn't, so then bought another one to replace the one that's missing. So he said, no, I still got mine. Test it all you want, guys. I don't know what you're saying, Timothy. You can't debut that, not what Gray said. I don't know what that means. I've done it. Jessica Schubach. I've done it. Done what? Oh, the other question isn't either. What's DE? I didn't think you could delete Amazon order. Amazon. Okay. Oh. Alright. Anyways, thanks everybody. Thanks for all the conversations and everything. I'm kind of stressed out. Little shorter temper, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, what sucks is like every day you get up and you hardly have any time, for yourself. You get up, and today was sort of like, okay, cool, I've got these documents, we can go over those. And then last night I was working on trying to make a 3D model, a human figure with a balaclava on. Because I'm just going to pose them in different places in the house. But anyways, hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, so thanks for being here, and that's it. All right, so as I always say, until next time, be safe out there. I forgot what I say.
Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time,
You forgot what you
I have not
said.
seen one person.
What are you talking about?
That is a
Well, I forgot that I was going to say,
crime dissector.
be safe out there.
Projector. I'm a certified human lie
Wow, you're crazy.
Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gray is gonna give another lecture.
Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a protector.
Fool deflector.
Interceptor, and I'm evil than a spectre with a vector.
On his pector.
I will, Bozo. But you're gonna get that K-bar knife, right?
I have no agenda. I'm no pretender. And I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you later.
Good night, everybody.
We are all Richard Allen!
That's ridiculous. All right, see ya.